isn't there?
Technical difficulties. Y'all gotta excuse me tonight. It's always something. Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and I'm so glad you could keep our appointment. My guest tonight, Kevin Barringer, aka Magus N-eye-N, started off as a Christian who found inconsistencies and contradictions in the church and Bible as a child. After not finding answers to his questions about the church, he prayed to God, the universe, to just show him the truth no matter what it was. Soon after this heartfelt plea to the universe, he was introduced to an alternative knowledge by way of a book called The New World Order by Ralph Epperson, which led him down a 25-year path of extensive research and study into a multitude of topics, from ancient world, Moorish history, secret societies and symbolism, movie symbolism, the Khemetan mystical metaphysical science, such as alchemy, astrology, and the science of melanin, political sciences, and world governments, esoteric fitness and nutrition, to Aboriginal constitution and police stop law. Magus N-eye-N's mission is to pass on the information the universe has entrusted within him to help restore, elevate, and evolve the consciousness of all melanated people and the world as a whole. Help me welcome to Office Hours, a special Friday edition of Office Hours with Dr. G, Magus N-eye-N. That's me. Welcome. Okay, I told you the music is over. You gotta rock with me.
You're funny. I got you.
I got my own theme song, so you gotta honor the theme.
Hey, I got you. I'm with you.
Yeah, that's me.
How's everybody doing?
Yes. All kinds of craziness going on. I don't know what day it is. I don't know what the planets or what the moon is doing. You might have to tell us. Maybe something is conjuncting something, and something is, maybe the moon is doing something crazy. That's it.
No, it's all good right now.
All right. Yeah,
we all good right now.
We about to get started. We about to get this party started. And I am so excited about you being here. I think this is the last bar. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. There you go.
Are you in the studio, girl? Did you hook that up?
I dreamt the melody, and a brother, yeah, brother Hassan Ghaziel L interpreted my dream and created the theme song. So shout out to him. Welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G, Magus N-eye-N, or would you prefer what should I call you? Should I call you Kevin? Should I call you Magus?
Just call me Kevin. You
good. Kevin. Okay. Well, how'd you get? Am I saying it correctly? Magus N-eye-N.
Magus. Yeah.
Oh, Magus. See, I'm wrong. You should have put an OO on there, and I would have known it was Goose. Magus N-eye-N.
Or they used to say in the old time Magus. But
Magus. Okay. Yeah. Magus. All right. Well, now we got it straight. Real Nagas is in the house. That is your creation, if I'm not mistaken. I know you didn't create Nagas, but the platform, Real Nagas.
Yes.
Tell us about your journey from a Christian. I'm real interested in anytime I can, when somebody's bio includes the fact that they were heavily steeped into Christianity, and since then something happened that changed their direction. I'm always interested, because that's kind of what happened to me after 25 plus years in ministry. So tell us about your journey from Christianity to the more metaphysical sciences and Moorish science that you have undertaken in the last 25 years.
Ooh.
I mean, you don't have to give us a 25.
Okay, no. Okay, that's a big journey. No, I guess it majorly started for me. I was living with my aunt, and she was, she was ill at the time, and then she passed away. And she had left me and my sister a couple of pieces of property. But she was like she was even though she was my aunt, she was like my grandmother. So when she passed, it was really hard for me to like be in the house where she was. So I took a trip to Jersey. This is where my father's from, Woodbury, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Woodbury, New Jersey. But I took a trip out to Woodbury, New Jersey, just to get away for a little bit. And while I was there, in Jersey or on the East Coast is, where you can get, back then, it's one major places you can get hoagies. Now, this is 20 something years later, they got hoagies everywhere. But back then you can only get a hoagie back east. So I was hoagieing every day. I was at the hoagie shop. So one day I went to going to get a hoagie, and then there was a bookstore. It was a black bookstore that was on the corner. I just saw it. I was like, oh snap. And before I left, though, it was funny. The night before I left, a homeboy of mine I went to high school with, he had gone to college in the South and come back. And when he came back, he had become a Mason, Prince Hall Mason, when he was down south. So the night before I went to Jersey, we were sitting in a car. We were going to the store, and before we got out of the car, he was talking about. We were talking about masonry. He was like, I can't tell you too much about it, and stuff like that. Or if I tell you, you got to ride a donkey to the east, and And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this sounded crazy. I'm I'm from the hood. I'm clowning them, talking shit. I'm talking. So I'm like, man, donkey to the east. Man, you crazy. I'm like, what kind of devil worship that you jumped into? And so he's like, no, it's like they tell you, they break down different stuff. I was like, what do you mean? Like what? And so he laid out coins on the dashboard, and quarters, dimes, nickels, and a penny. And he said, what do you notice about the coins? And I was like, I wasn't into symbolism at the time, so I really wasn't really aware. And he was like, well, he said, what about Lincoln? I said, which way is Lincoln facing? I was like, oh, he's facing the opposite way of all the other presidents. If you lay all the coins out, Lincoln is facing the opposite direction of all the other, facing the way the other presidents are facing. And I was like, well, why is that? He was like, because Lincoln freed the slaves and the presidents turned their back on him when he freed the slaves. And I was like, what? And it was just like some symbolism that hit me. I was like, man, that hit me like a ton of bricks, because I was like, it was kind of obvious. Like what, now that I know, it was a little bit more than that, but back then it was so obvious. I was like, that's crazy. And, it's got me thinking about how much I didn't know about symbolism and money. And I look at money all the time, and I didn't realize what the symbolism was in money. So, that was just always in my head. So when I went to Jersey, I'm passing by this store, and I saw this book in the window, The New World Order by Ralph Epperson. And it had just the dollar bill. I mean, the pyramid, the seal on it with the pyramid dollar bill. So I thought it told you about the symbolism of money. So I wanted to buy the book. Excuse me. So I wanted to buy the book, but the store was closed. And I wanted to go home and eat, but I was like, someone was telling me, man, get that book. So I stayed outside and waited for the store to open, like maybe 45 minutes, and it started snowing. So I stayed in the snow, waited for the store to open. My man gets there, and he's a young looking brother. He looks basically my age. And so he's opening the store. He's like, man, you out here? He's like, you hungry for knowledge, young brother? And I was like, I saw this book and I wanted to get this book. So me and him, he opens the store. We go in, just me and him in the store. And it was a Muslim brother from New York. And he started just asking me what my background was on Black history and that type of stuff. I was like, I don't know anything, man. I'm like, I'm kind of new, into this stuff. And so he was like, man. So he walked me over. He showed me the Stolen Legacy. And He showed me what was it? It was something Miseducation of the Negro. And then he showed me a couple other books, and I was like, man, I had never seen any of this stuff.
Yes.
And so I was like, man, this stuff is crazy. So he's like, man, you got to take these, get that book, young brothers, but take these with you. This is our history. This is what we used to be, in ancient history, and this is how they miseducated us. And he was freaking out. I had never heard any of it. And so he was like, yeah, man, you got to start eating healthy too. They got us eating their food. And, I'm like, what do you mean they got us eating their food? And he's like, man, how old do you think I am? And I looked at him. I was like, man, you maybe 22? He's like, man, I'm 42. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, man, I'm 42. I eat well. And he started teaching me about nutrition. This is when I first got into nutrition. I was overweight at that time. I was back in the day, I used to be 300 pounds.
Oh my.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was like, yeah, young brother, you got to eat. You got to start eating right and this and that. So, and it, it just had me crazy because dude looked younger than me. and I was like, oh, this is insane. So get the book. I go home to my aunt. I was staying with my aunt, and when I walked in, my whole family was just like super Christian. They started the church in that town in Woodbury. They started the church in Woodbury. Very ancient history my family has in that town. And so when I went there, they saw the book. They're like, what are you doing with that book? I'm like, I don't know. I think it tells you about the symbolism of money. They were like, no, it's like, you need to talk to your uncle about that. My uncle was a preacher for about 20 something years. And so you need to talk to your uncle about that. I'm like, well, what would he know about this? He's a Christian preacher. What would he know about the symbolism of money? Like, no, call him right now. So I call him up, and he goes, yeah. He's like, don't read. He said, don't read that book. He said, when are you leaving? And I was like, I told him the date. He said, I'm gonna come and pick you up the day before you leave. You're gonna stay at my house the night before, and I'll take you to the airport. So I get to his, he comes pick me up. We go to his house the night before I leave. We go upstairs to his bedroom, and he pulls out this steel briefcase from under his bed. I'm like, what? It's like a, one of those briefcases you see in the movies that has like money in it or something, or a bomb or something. And so he opens it up, and it's all this information on the New World Order and Freemasons, and and how Masons are Luciferian. So he was super Christian. So there was a preacher back in the day named Jack Van Imp. He used to be on.
I remember him.
Remember Jack Van Imp? Okay, so Jack Van Imp used to be on TV. He was crazy. Y'all go look Jack Van Imp up. I'm sure he got some YouTube videos of him. But so he used to preach about the New World Order. Him and his wife, they used to preach about this all the time. So he sat me down, and we started looking at this stuff, and I got scared. I got terrified. I was like, oh, the devil is taking over the world, and all. He got me on the Luciferians was about to take over, and I'm like, ah. So I'm super Christian. So now I'm going home, and that's all I'm thinking about. That's it. My head is filled with Luciferians and Masons, and that's that's it. So I get home I smoked weed, and so I hadn't had weed for a while. So when I got home, I went to the person who supplied me some weed. And so when I went to her house, I had that book with me, the New World Order. I had the Ralph Epperson book. I still hadn't read it, but I just had the book with me because I had intended to read it, and I just wanted to tell her about it. And when I went over there, she had some other books, breaking down. She had some books from, and this was just my introduction into information. She had some books from, I think what was his Mount Dr. York, I think. But it was books like on ancient history. It was books on ancient history that I had never seen before, and it was basically just history. It was asking the questions about history. Mm-hmm. And basically the book, the premise of the book was, don't believe me, check it out for yourself. And then it just started breaking off everything about Adam and Eve, and how Adam and Eve were melanated, were black, and they came from here. And the Bible was the words in the Bible were taken out of context. They don't, they didn't use the correct etymology and history of the words in the Bible. So they actually mean a different meaning. They have a complete different meaning when you do the etymology of the words and this and that. So I was like, oh, and I'm Christian. So I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't do that study. It showed me that I hadn't done that study. And so when I really went to go start doing the study, I started looking and seeing like he was actually right. I was like, oh, snap. I went and got something called the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, which shows you know what that is. So
I got one like that.
You got one to see?
Yeah,
and so it shows you the breakdown, of the words in the Bible and how it goes back. But then I got an etymology dictionary. That was really the thing that they get an etymology dictionary. So that etymology is the study of the history of words, the lineage of words. So, where, what they mean now, the connotation and the denotation. So connotation is what the word comes to mean, but the denotation is what it actually meant when they first made it. So I'm starting looking up these words and I'm like, we don't understand anything. I was looking up words and found the word ethnic and found that ethnic went back to the word heathen. And the word heathen meant someone that was from the Heats. But then I went and looked up what the Heats were, and the Heats were the low shrubbery land that was in Europe. I was like, wait a minute, that's not us. I was like, wait a minute, that's the Caucasians who lived in those lands over there. So basically the word ethnic was a term that they had used. It was used for Caucasian people who lived in the low shrubbery lands, and then it got flipped on to melanated people. And so I started looking at these terms, like ethnic literally means that it was like a savage. It went back to the word savage. I'm like, wait a minute. And so these words started killing me. And that started me on my trip on etymology and breaking down just the history of words. And I went down the rabbit hole from there. The crazy thing though was, so that started me on my path to just studying, just beyond alternative information. Then one day, I was at the gym and I was training with a friend of mine. He was a trainer, and we started talking about extraterrestrials. And he had pointed to another trainer, and he's like, man, he said, do you know that dude over there, Jamal? He's like, man, he know all about this. I was like, that dude, like, he seemed like he was crazy. Like he was a really funny, weird out dude. He didn't seem like he knew he had any information. And I was like, that dude, the crazy dude over there. He's like, man, he's not crazy. He's really cool. He's like, so he brought him over here. And he was like, man, we were just talking about extraterrestrials. And so he was like, oh man, man. So he jumped, his face got all super bright. And he went to his locker and brought back one of the books. And it was one of the books that I had been reading from Dr. York. And I was like, and it was a book breaking down. I think it was called 2000 AD and What to Expect. And it was breaking down things from, information that you can possibly from the beginning of the life on the planet to the etymology of words to the breaking down the history of governments. And it was vast information. So I was like, oh my God. And so we got to talking and found out that he knew the girl whose house I went over, who I went to go buy the weed. He knew her. It was funny. He had known her because they had went to, there was a school out in Pasadena that they were teaching all this stuff at. And so he was like, man, I know her. He was like, man, I know that girl. It was like, she goes to the school that we go to. I was like, what? I was like, this is crazy. This was insane. Then come to find out, me and that guy was born on the same day. We had the exact same birthday. And it was just, the universe was just too many coincidences. So he's like, man, you need to come down and check us out. And I was like, and this was during football season. And back then you couldn't talk to me from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I was football all day. But then the very week after Super Bowl, I thought about it. I was like, man, I'm gonna go out to that school. And when I went to the school, the class that they was teaching, there was a brother, my homie now, his name is Zoe Williams.
Is that from the Zoe What Show? That's where I first thought, yeah. Right.
So yeah, so that Zoe, he was having a class and he was teaching. Back then he was really Muslim, and he would teach on Christianity and the breakdown and the inconsistencies in Christianity. And so it was crazy because that day, it was like, when I went to the class, it was like 30, 40 people in the class, like only standing room, because it was a very small room. And so, but I was in the front, and he was speaking literally on Christianity, breaking down, but he was looking directly at me the whole time. But he didn't know. I didn't know him at all. That was the very first time. I think I just said what's up to him before the class, but it was something like about the Christianity. I had that energy on me, and he was breaking the whole science and the history of Christianity down. And it was killing it. I had no answers for anything that he was breaking down about the Christianity. I was like, man, I had nothing to say. And so from that point on, I was like, it taught me how much I didn't know and how much I believed without doing the actual study. And so it was funny right before that, though. Right before that, all of this had happened. When I started to see the inconsistencies in Christianity, it just started to get on my soul. And so I prayed. I was like, God, I don't, my soul, my spirit. I don't want to do wrong. So what is the truth? I just want to know what the truth is. If Christianity in religion is the truth, then let me know that, and then I'll do that to the 1000%. But if that's not the truth, I just want to know what the truth is. And right after that, I started being flooded with all information about about everything. So
that's normally how it happens, though. Once you open up and say yes to whatever the truth is, that's what I want. Then you normally have a download, and like you said, you have a lot of synchronicities and meetings of people that cross your path, and now they have something to pour into that knowledge that you're requesting, that truth that you're requesting. And it's it was the same thing for myself.
See, all you got to do is just open yourself up to the universe. Like it was a pure request, and I was purely opening myself up to the universe, and the universe was like, all right, you want to know? Bam. And it sent pretty much all the information my way. And,
seek, what does it say? Seek and ye shall find, knock and the door shall be open unto you. And people are just thinking that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get deeper into Christianity. It may take you actually out of it, because it's the complacency of most people that takes away their ability to be seekers, to be searchers, to be questioners, because we're told not to question. We're told that book is inerrant, that it's infallible, that God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. And I've said it as a pastor myself, and even while I had doubts about things, why was God saying that thou shalt have no other God before me if he was only God? Why would he even have to say that? If he's only God, why? And later on, you find out about the book of Enoch, and you find out about the little pieces that are in the Bible. They'll talk about the Nephilim, for instance, but it never goes in. And in those days, there were giants in the land, and then you find out about Anu and the Anunnaki and Enki and Enlil and all of these characters, and then you see Jupiter ascending, and you find out that movie was sort of about the story, the fight between over what the planet.
I haven't, now of all these movies I've seen, I haven't seen Jupiter. I haven't seen that yet.
You need to see that, because it's actually it's the play on those, because God looks like a schizophrenic in the Bible. I create these people, these beings. I love them. It pains me that I made them. Kill them all. Go over there and kill everything. Women, children, cattle. This, like, is he crazy or what? And then you realize that they're multiple gods. They're eels. There's not.
Okay, yeah, all right. Now I gotta go watch it. It looks like it. Man, I went to film school too. That was early on, before I got into all of this. I actually went to film school, and I wanted to be a screenwriter and director, and so that was actually part of what I needed to do, because it taught me learning that before I got into any of this. I was still Christian, but getting into movies, going to school, it taught you symbolism. So when you go to film school, it teach you that if you see it on the camera, it's supposed to be there. The director meant it to be there, because they got budgets, they got cutting room floors, and when the director and the editor's in there, if there's something in that movie that they don't need, going to save them money, they'll cut it. Or if the director needs it to be in there, they needed to be an overall part of the story, even if it's subliminally, you don't recognize it. It's supposed to be a part of that. It's supposed to be a part of that scene. So everything that you see on the camera is supposed to be is supposed to be there.
Well, so, in the latter years, we began to, I recognized what is known as, and it probably was in older things too, but product placement. And you'd see, that, they were drinking, or eat the cereal would be, cornflakes, Kellogg's cornflakes, or the juice would be Sun-Kissed, or, something like that. That was placement. But the subtleties of symbolism that even though, I know you studied this, that even though people may not recognize it as such, and they see it, like we see things like in advertisement, like we see the swoosh of Nike, but we don't know that that's a symbol for the ring of Saturn, And so, we see various things on cars, the Nissan is a big, but when you, even in the Bible, Nissan was a significant time, you know what I mean? And so it goes on and on. I mean, you see crosses in a lot of things in symbolism, but they're all it's just the same cross, that the hospital cross, and whatever, it may be on an angle this time, and it may be going this way this time, but it's the same cross. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so here's what folks don't, people don't understand, sigil magic.
Yes. And it's something that we created. It's something that's been around since the beginning of information and knowledge, because before there was spoken word, there was only symbols. When you go to the first languages, there was symbols. So you use symbols to say one symbol to say, maybe 10, 15 different things, just like we do today. Like the word, just, going to the word nigga. The word nigga means 18 different things to most brothers, when they, depending on how you say it. Hey, what's up, nigga? Oh, nigga. Like it depending on the intonation of your, your vibration.
Or my nigga,
that's my nigga right there. Like
but I think you brought us to some place now where you found Nagas is more of a.
So back then, though, but the symbolism that I learned in the movies, because it carried over. What happened was I wrote a movie called Swashbuckling. It was, so this is actually in coincidence or coincidence with the me getting into alternative knowledge. So I was asleep one night, and I had a dream that I was a pirate. Me and the homies, we were pirates on this ship, and we were fighting with swords and doing flips and doing all this crazy stuff. And we were like docked on a beach, and and I was really into old movies and stuff like that. But this one was like, it didn't seem like I was dreaming about, like I was in a movie. This was absolutely real. Like it was all melanated people. We were sword fighting and this and that. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I wrote half the movie in the middle of the night. It was called Swashbuckling. And then I went and did some research and wrote the other half of the movie. It was a pretty funny movie. I shopped it around I showed it to a lot of people. They would just be dying within the first couple pages. So then I had found at this party, I had met Martin Lawrence's assistant, his at You Go Boy Productions, and so she was kind of flirting with me. So but then when she found out I was a screenwriter, she was like, "Oh," and I told her about this movie that I had written. She's like, "Oh, you need to get it to me so I can get it to Martin," because I had actually wrote the movie. One of the parts in the movie was written for Martin. So basically it was a movie about 5 melanated brothers and this one sister from the hood going back in time to like Middle Ages time. And because
this before or after that movie where he was that's what I was
about to tell you. That's my movie. That's the movie that he got the movie for me.
What?
Black Knight. So my movie was called Yeah. So he kept everything in it. The name, the main name, Jamal, of the character. He kept that name. He kept the fact that at the end of the movie, it was a dream. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the movie, but at the end of the movie, it was a dream that he got transported back in time with this emerald. That was the same thing that I had in my movie. It was called the Emerald of Time. It was they basically took pretty much almost everything from my movie and put it in.
Did you get a check?
Huh?
Did you get a check?
No, because I didn't copyright the movie. I was back then, thinking I was being this conscious brother. There was something called the Black Screenwriters Guild. And so I went and signed up with them, and I submitted my script with them, thinking that they were going to copyright it correctly. They didn't do it. I thought my script was okay. Then after giving it to Martin, he wanted me to change some stuff because Martin wasn't the lead in the movie. I wrote it for, the main person I wrote it for was Dwayne Martin. So that was Tisha Campbell's husband. Back she just divorced, I think. But back then he was in a movie called Above the Rim, and so that movie was real big to me. And he was funny, but he was kind of like what they call a straight funny. Martin was supposed to be the real funny. So I wrote this main part for a person just to be slightly funny, and the second person to be hilarious. He can just go off and be funny. Martin didn't want that. He wanted to be the lead in the movie. So he marked up my script and was like, change this, change that, change this. And I was like, I'm not changing that. And I just didn't contact him anymore. And then 6 years later, I was in a movie theater, getting ready to watch another movie. And then I got hit with Martin Lawrence and The Black Knight. And I was like, whoa. I was like, what? Oh man, I was so sick.
Let that be a lesson to you. You copyright. And Martin Lawrence, you watching this segment, even in replay, you owe the brother some credit.
No. Let me tell you, no, he doesn't, because this is how I was repaid. Because I was pissed.
Okay.
And I didn't see the movie for years. Like, I refused to see that movie for years. I was like, I'm not watching that movie. People would bring that movie. Man, you need to see this movie, man. I'm telling you. I'm like, get that movie out of my face. So when I finally went and watched the movie, I learned that he was being called Moor in the movie.
Yes.
And I didn't have that in my movie. See, I went and did all this research on, pirates, but I didn't come across the fact, the black history of pirates. I didn't come across that because, actual pirates were corsairs. They were the pirate. They were at northwestern Africa, Northwest Africa. They were the pirates from that region, and they would roam the Atlantic, and they called them, they were the corsairs, and they would jack most of the people in the Atlantic Ocean, and that's where the real pirates were. But I didn't do that research at that time. And so, but whoever did, he gave the script to a script doctor or somebody, and they did the research and put that in there. So the Caucasian people or the English people in the movie kept calling Martin Lawrence Moor. Come here. Yeah. Hello, Moor. And so I was like, and so when I saw it, I was actually into alternative knowledge at that point. I was on the Moorish knowledge and, our history and stuff like that. So it showed me that the dream that I had wasn't necessarily a dream. It might have been, I was remembering an actual history, and I wrote that, and that was to lead me onto the path where I was now. I wasn't supposed to be involved in that movie. I wasn't supposed to get any money from that movie. That movie was to let me know that this is where this was a stepping stone into where you're supposed to be now.
Someone wrote that we need a Noble Drew Ali movie. Jerome Kane said, so maybe you need to screenwrite something that's more, more about what
I don't do screenwriting anymore. I do real stuff. I write the law and law and government. I try to free people with the writing now. But
but you do, yeah. Now I caught some of your wordplay videos that are on YouTube with regard to etymology.
Yes.
And I don't know, are you still doing that or?
I was, but when I was doing it, those videos take a long time to produce, and they weren't getting as many views. So it would, it'd take about a week to make up. People don't know because I'm pulling in, I'm doing the editing and pulling in all those words. So, I did them early on when my channel was smaller. and they weren't getting as many views, so I had to stop doing it. But if people wanted me to do the word plays again, I would do them. But there's 12 episodes. There's hundreds of words that I've gone over. But there's still more. But I would do them. But it's just the production. It takes such a long time.
Tell us about the God classes that you teach. What's that about?
Well, just basically the actual history of the Moors or melanated people, throughout time. It's been the history has been misrepresented, misinformation. So, and the fact that we used to be thought of as gods back in time. So the God classes were an introduction into who you truly were and how you used to be thought of, and to show actually how far we've fallen from that position. Like there was nowhere that you could go on the planet that they didn't revere you as a god. Like you go and look at Buddha, you look up a statue of Buddha. What does Buddha have? Tight little kinky curls in his head. There's some tight little spirals. That's nappy hair, or what we call nappy hair today. But
the coil, 9 ether hair. Yes. The coils, curly hair. I saw a special of something just recently where they were talking about the Twi. Is it called the Twa people? I think they are the same ones that were the Twa Dana, who became, I believe, when they talked about the little people in Ireland, they lied. I don't know why they dressed this little guy up like these little leprechauns when the Twa Dana, little melanated people, almost the pygmies, so to speak. So when so that's what St. Patrick did. He ran the snakes. They called them snakes, or I don't know if that has anything to do with Nagas and dragons, but it does. He ran the snakes out of Ireland, and we celebrate. I happen to have arrived here on St. Patrick's Day, so
running the snakes. Anytime you see the serpent represented in history, that's us. Right. That's a deformity of our consciousness. But they try to, because the serpent represented enlightenment, as the uraeus. If you go back and you look at Khemetan, and you look at the serpent on the forehead, the uraeus, that represented the third eye, the enlightenment. And this is where you get the the reptile or reptilian. The reptilian really in ancient history was the enlightened god. See, a Naga, this is where you get Naga from. So Naga was the serpent. So Naga was the serpent, the enlightened serpent god in ancient in Asia. And so that's where you get Nigga, obviously, but then also in Ethiopia, it was the sovereign or the king was called the Nagus. So this is a word that always was a high spiritual term. It was a high frequency term that we always use. So actually, everyone shouldn't be using it. If you're not enlightened, you shouldn't be calling yourself a nigger, really.
Is it nigger or Naga?
No, nigga is just a fast way to say it. It's really Naga, and it's the same word. It's just wherever you are in different terms. If you go down south, a word is not going to sound the same as a person from up north. So it's just a different inflection on the term. But if you say it fast, like Naga, Naga, nega, nega, and so some people say it the long A, nega, and if you say that fast, nega, nega. So,
but isn't it the energy and the intention that one puts behind a word in the sense that when we have been called that, it has been, a lot of times, I'm not talking about when we're with each other pounding away. I'm talking about when the Albion has said, called us that N word, and it has become so offensive. I hope we don't get flagged for using it now, but how offensive that N word is from a standpoint of how it's the intention. When Albions call us that, they are not praising us, at least not on the surface. True.
Well, again, words first are created in a vibration. upon their creation. You can't, just because your intention doesn't change the vibration of the word, the actual vibration of the word, which is why they get you using terms that still mean the actual meaning. Like they tell you, like the word nice. Everyone's using the word nice, but nice means stupid. See,
right.
it's the term that still holds the actual vibration. Now, alchemy, which is the transmutation of vibration or energy, to do alchemy or to perform alchemy, you have to know what the vibration begins with before you can transmute it to another vibration. If you don't know what something is at the beginning, you can't transform it into something else if you don't know what you're starting with. So, in order, you can transmute the energy of a word once you find out the actual meaning, once you find out the actual vibration of it in the beginning, because then you can consciously not use that not use that vibration in your intent. But if you don't know, you just going right along with the flow. You have no idea if you're using it or not. So it depends. So the energy was on how we took the term. That was really, they can say it with all the aggression in the world. If I come to you and I call you you billionaire, if I say that, would you be offended if I called you a billionaire? Would anger? No, because you know what a billionaire actually means.
Right.
So because you don't know what the word means, you take the word as a negative energy. But again, no one is responsible for how you take energy, how you take vibration. That's on you. However you receive the vibration and you do whatever you do on the inside, that's all on you. So if you call me something and then I take it negatively and then I act upon it, then that's literally upon me. If you can move me to action from words, then this goes back to the ancient teachings of the Kabbalion. There's the difference between feeling and emotion. See, most people don't understand the difference between the two. Feeling is having the vibration. Emotion is allowing the vibration to move you to action. And so most people don't process the vibration before they move to action. They just react. And so that's a lower vibration. Reaction is a lower vibration than response. So, and again, when you're taking, again, it's like when somebody says, call your mother the B word, right? And any melanated person in the hood, if you call their mama the B word, like that's fighting. You and depending on who you say, you probably gonna get killed. Say it to. But again, this is a lower vibration. If somebody can say something to you and move you to a bigger negative action than the first action, then they've won the battle, because it's a mental battle. And so you can say everything, you can say anything you want. If I allow that frequency to affect me, again, you're in control of everything that comes within this sphere right here. You're the god of this. All of this right here. If someone can say something to you and you allow that frequency to penetrate, then that's on you, because you don't truly understand who you are. That you are attached to something else that comes outside of you, and then hold on to it and allow it to become a part of your frequency. So this is why you reacting to words is very important, and you understanding the vibration of words is very important. You won't be moved to negative action from somebody just calling you stupid, calling you dumb stuff. This is why, you see videos nowadays where people are called nigga and, just jump off and they just start smacking people in the face. If you can be moved to such a negative vibration just with a word, then that person really runs you. They own you. Mentally, that person owns you. So this is why I created wordplay, so people can understand the vibration and frequency of word and the history of words, so that you can start to maneuver throughout the society without being, pushed to negative vibration just from reactions of words.
Well, that's it. That's important. I mean, like I said, the other thing I find with people, I don't know if you agree, is that it's the self-talk that becomes a debilitating factor in someone's, like, they've had enough things said to them a person has had enough things done to them that now they're doing it to themselves or saying it to themselves. And that's sort of incessant and on and on and on, and teaching people how to refocus and retrain their brain to be positive and realizing that you are what you think.
That's why the guy classes had to come about, because we've been told nothing. First of all, most people believe, or like melanated people believe, our history started at slavery. And, if you understand, when you start to peel away, the bullshit that they placed, the historical boards that they placed down in history, which are bullshit, you start to peel them up, you understand that we created, melanated people created all of this shit. You were the first people to do everything. Literally nothing that they have on this planet that didn't come from you. All the sciences, all the history, everything, the philosophy, all of it came from melanated people. And if you're able to reconnect with that, then you will elevate your vibration and get back to who we once were, because we were definitely at a higher vibration before. We have fallen so far. And when you understand that they know this, they look upon melanated people in disgust, because they see the fact that we used to be so high, and then they see how far we've fallen. Like, I've had, Masons salute me when I told them who I was. Like, this is when I was going to court really heavily back in the early 2000s, changing my status, and I would go to court with a lot of brothers, and we would wear our fezzes. And when I wore my fez to court one day, and because I was just helping a brother. And when we were leaving, we went to the parking lot, and this Caucasian dude walked up to us, this old guy in a suit, and he walked up to us, and he said, "Man," he said, "those some nice little funny hats you got on there, man. What are those hats you got? Those look pretty funny there." And so my homeboy, he stopped and he backed up. He said, "These are," he said, "hats." He stopped and he looked at him real angry, and he said, "These are fezzes. We're Moors." And so the Caucasian dude, he stopped, stood at attention, and saluted us. And then he walked off without saying another word. And we looked at each other like, what the fuck just happened? We were like, huh? It was crazy. So we were like, okay. So then we were in court another time. And it was 4 of us. So 5 people, 5 Moors went to court. One of our brothers. So one of our brothers, he was up, and he had a property dispute, but we all went to the court to help him. We all had our fezzes on. A lawyer who had just finished the case. We walked in when the lawyer was just doing closing arguments on his case. That lawyer was getting ready to leave. He saw us in the back, and then he came and he was getting ready to walk out. He saw us. He doubled back and he sat behind us. He was getting ready to leave. And so while my homie was up, he was up at the podium talking to the judge or whatever,
the magistrate, whatever,
whatever it was, but he was, asserting his status. So the guy was in the back talking to us. Yeah, man. What are your hats? What do your hats mean? and so we said it again. These aren't hats. These are fezzes. We're Moors. Yeah, I like that. He's like, yeah. He's like, I know about the Moors. And then he said, then he started talking to us before he's like, yeah. He's like, that's something like Masons. And I said, no, we're not. No, we're fathers of Masons. And then he said, and he shook his head like that. And then he sat back, and then he saluted us again, and he got up and walked out.
Something they know. Something that they know.
Salutes. At 2 courthouses after we said we're Moors. These are fezzes, we're Moors. So
here's a comment in the chat from Meeting Figueroa Bay, and she says a policy enforcer saluted me and pulled me through a traffic stop and bowed. She said, "Because I rock everything more." But which is a good segue to your police stop. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know you were trying to do it differently at one point, and you had to kind of change it because the funding didn't come forth for what you would. But could you talk about that for just a minute? Tell us what about the police side, because there's so many that are dealing with, what to do when they get accosted.
Yeah.
By policy.
So this came about because, as a Moor, you do your status. And then also I did my status a little differently than how the Moors do their status. Because actually after, learning that, started to learn and study and understand that we were Aboriginal to the Americas, which gives us a different status. And so as an Aboriginal, in the world, anybody indigenous, you have the highest status in the world. That's the rights of indigenous people. This is universal law around the world. So upon studying that, I did my status change, but I do it differently because I focus on the law, basically contract law, because the United States of America is a corporation, right? It's the United States of America, Inc. It's a Delaware corporation. File number 219-3946. So, when I found that out, I understood, I started to study corporate law, because if you're dealing with corporation, you want to deal with them as a corporation. So corporations deal in contracts. So I became basically a master of contract law. And that's how I did my status. That's how I did my status change. And that was like over 20 years ago. And so, I was basically one of the first, the only person to put this type of paperwork together. No one has ever used it but me. So when I did that though, I was out of the system. Like I completely got out of the system. I was able to get warrants wiped away without walking into court. I was just able to send in paperwork and get warrants wiped off. These were bullshit warrants. They were warrants that they had put upon me because I didn't comply with some court orders. So they got these warrants out. I sent my paperwork in after I changed my status and wiped those warrants out. So just started to understand that this was the way, like court, basically contract law. Everything that you do is a contract. Everything that you sign, everything that you do within this corporation is contractual. And if you understand contracts and how not to be obligated by contracts, then you will float and maneuver through this system, with ease. But it takes a minute to understand the law and contract. It's not just easy. I'm just not going to, say it's that easy, but over time, understanding that law. So doing that, that's the higher sign. That's the higher side of the law, is regaining your status and being out of the jurisdiction of the corporation. But what about the people still within jurisdiction in the corporation? And the reason most of us are getting hemmed up is because we just don't know basic law. Like you don't need to know, extensive status law and all that type of stuff, which it would behoove you. That is the best thing for you to do, is to understand what your status is. And this is all Aboriginal people around the world. If you're indigenous to the land, you have the highest status. So you should try to reclaim that. But if you're just, if you're still in the system, you're not trying to do all that, then how do you deal with the popo when they roll up on you? Very simple laws allow you to deal with the police. Police have to follow certain rules that they know you don't know, because we're just apathetic to the law. There's a word called bulldozer, right? Everybody knows what a bulldozer is. That big thing that moves houses and trees or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the term bulldozer goes back to the term bull's dose, because it was a term that was used against melanated people, against Black people. They used to beat melanated people when they would try to vote. This was after the Reconstruction. When they wanted to discourage melanated people from voting, they would give them a bull's dose of a beating to discourage them from being involved in government and the law. And so this is where the term bulldozer came from. It means a bull's dose of a beating. Literally, the big bulldozer is named after you get melanated people getting their asses beat. So wow. This is one of the reasons that we're discouraged from learning the law. They beat it out of us. We don't understand that. A lot of us don't understand this. This goes back to that. But So we have a great fear of the law. And that law, they ain't gonna do nothing, man. That law ain't gonna work for us. That law for them white people. And as soon as you learn the law, they gonna change it. So why learn it? They gonna change it as soon as you learn it. Well, if they did change it when you learn it, then you learn what they change it to. So that would be the answer to that. But the police have basic rules that they have to follow, because they that are tied to your constitutional rights, and if they violate those in any small way, they have to pay. But if you don't know that, then first of all, they know you don't know that, which is why they come up right to you, and they basically pretty much every stop is at some point, the beginning of it is unlawful, because what they have to have is something called reasonable suspicion when they walk up to you, basically meaning they have to suspect you of having committed a crime, in the midst of committing a crime, or about to commit a crime. So just little bit right here. If you haven't committed a crime in the past, you're not committing a crime now, or about to commit a crime, if they don't suspect you of any of those, they cannot stop you. A police officer cannot stop you. They have to articulate what crime they suspect you of having committed, in the midst of committing, or about to commit. But most melanated people don't know just enough to say that. This would alleviate 95% of police stops, because when they walk up to you, they have no reason to do that, but you don't know that. So you just start talking, and then you put yourself within jurisdiction right off the bat, because you have no idea that the police doesn't even have a right to talk to you. You can turn and walk away. You say, "Are you detaining me?" Police officer, if he has no right to, he has to say no, and you can walk off. Just like the Central Park Five, those kids who got snatched up. Yeah. They got snatched up because they didn't know basic law. Their parents, before a child leaves the house, he goes outside to play, 10 years old, 9 years old, that child should know basic law, that or how to talk to a police officer. Because what happened was when the police rolled up on those kids, even one of the guy who spent the most time in prison, 14 years, they weren't even looking for him. He was just with one of the suspects when the police rolled up on him. They said, "You want to go to the precinct for, as moral support for your friend?" He was like, "Yeah, I'll go down there." And they went down there and got him to confess without a lawyer, got him to confess that he committed the crime, basically telling him that if you just admit or you just confess to the crime, you'll go home. We'll let you go home tonight. So they had their parents there when they told them this. The parents were sitting in the room. The parents didn't know enough to know, don't let my kids talk. Just basic, don't say anything. If you knew just that, if the kids knew that, don't talk to the police, don't say anything, they would have went home that night. But they spent 7 to 14 years in jail just because they didn't know the basic, don't talk, I don't have to talk to the police. Or the parents didn't know that. And then after the kids got railroaded, the parents said that they used our lack of knowledge of the legal system against us. So, like I said, being out of jurisdiction is one thing, but you have to, if you're going to be in that system, you got to be armored up. And so this would brought me to doing police stop law. The first thing we wanted to create was Cop Stop Guardian, which was an app for when you get pulled over. It would be like the middleman. It would be like an operator. Once you push the app, the operator would come on, and the operator would talk to the police officer for the driver, because the operator would be well versed in police stop law and and police lingo, and able to talk to the police officer for the driver. Now we were trying to raise money for that app. That was a big app because it hadn't been created before, so the technology in it was going to be pretty big. So we didn't raise enough money for that. But people still needed something. Like if I couldn't give them the app at the time, they still needed something. So that's when I came up with. I started doing research on immigration. I started immigration and how when immigrants come over here, they get something called a know your rights card. They're lawyers and stuff like that. If they have organizations and stuff that give these people something called know your rights cards that explains to the police officer that this person is an immigrant. They don't speak English well, so you need to, and explains their rights on the card, every right that they have as an immigrant. and so that they don't have to talk to the police officer that much. They can give them that card and then, you know, be quiet. So I was like, why don't we have something like that? I was like, this is crazy. Wait a minute. That is the most simple thing in the universe that we can have on us, that, you know, for people who don't know the law that well, you can have all your rights and laws on the card. Just hand the police officer that and be quiet. So I started to research, and no one had anything like that for melanated people. There was not one thing like that. So then that's why when I came up with, you know, you can see.
It's okay. Well, the constitutional rights card.
Constitutional right there. It's hard. So that
there we go. Yeah.
There it goes.
Yeah.
The constitutional rights card.
Mm-hmm.
Has all your rights on your constitutional rights on it, and it also has the penalties if the police officer violates your constitutional rights. What can happen to the police officer? And so this is also something called a qualified immunity card, because police officers when they violate your rights, they get something called qualified immunity, meaning if a police officer believes that they were performing their duty in good faith, that while they're in their official capacity, they get off. They get immunity. So, but what happens is most people don't know, if the police officer knowingly violates your rights, then they lose that qualified immunity. So if you alert the officer to the fact that they're in danger of violating your rights before they do it, they can't claim that they didn't know after, and they lose their qualified immunity. So I created the qualified immunity notice and qualified immunity card to alert the police officers. You can see that, to alert police officers that they lose their qualified immunity when they violate your rights. These are just certain things. See, police officers know this. They know these terms, qualified immunity. They know something called, also police officers have to have police insurance, right? And so that's called a surety bond. So, and this is to ensure that they don't violate your rights or do damage to the public in large. So most people don't know this. Every police officer that you see in the country has to have a surety bond. No one is allowed to work without it. Not one police officer, not one public official can be on duty without a surety bond. So when they violate your contract, and the surety bond is tied to their oath to the Constitution, meaning their oath to uphold your Fourth Amendment right. So basically, when they violate your Fourth Amendment rights, any type of way, they handcuff you without probable cause. They search your car without probable cause. They do any of that stuff without probable cause. They violated your Fourth Amendment right, and you can go place something called a lien or a claim on their police bond. And when you do that, the police officer can't work that day. See, most of the time, what most of you do when you get violated by the police, you go file a complaint with the precinct. The precinct does the internal investigation that takes weeks and weeks. Then they come and give you the results of that, and then you go and take that and see if you want to do a federal lawsuit against the police officer, right? Against discrimination of your rights. That may take a year to another 2 years. So while you're doing that, the police officer is working, getting money. He chilling. he railroading how many other people for that 2 years. But if you go place a lien on the police officer's bond, then that police officer cannot work that day until the lien is satisfied, which means they have to do an investigation. What happens when you place a claim on the bond, the insurance company, they have to do an investigation to see if your claim is right. So they have to stall the bond. They have to put a hold on the bond. So a police officer, if he can't work without a bond, so that police officer can't work until that investigation is done. So I wrote, and that information was hidden up until till recently. So I just basically did all this research and uncovered it. You could not find a police officer's or public official's bond because they play 3-card monte with them, because they know that's the end game. When you find their bond, that you can basically get them railroaded. So they're supposed to have them in one place. They'll move them this around. You go to this place. They move them here and there. But you can always find them in the state's laws. It's called the oaths and bonds, under the oaths and bonds law. So, but they're spread out so far. So I did the research and found all of the laws in all of the states. I found all of the laws in all of the states that deal with guns. And so I put it all in one book. So now you can go, when they violate your rights, you can place a lien on that bond and the police officer can't work that day. And when you say that at a police stop, when you say I'm going to place a lien on your bond, you say surety bond to a police officer, watch how their whole face change. their whole what? Oh, what? Huh? Wait. what? Huh? Wait, oh. What do you mean? Like, what? Hey, why you got to do that? Like, so they know that's the end game for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, I basically wanted to put together all the tools that people needed. Also, this is the Know Your Rights. This is the Know Your Rights manual. So everything that you need, if you don't know your rights at the police stop, I put it in here. Mm-hmm. So I basically wanted to create everything that melanated people, everyone, whoever needs it, but everything that you need at a police stop if you're going to remain in the system. Like, if you're going to remain in the system, then run the system, learn the rules to the system, and take advantage of the system.
Let's talk about getting out of the system, especially now that a lot of people are up in arms and probably alarmed about what the future might hold with regard to, where this corporation is going. Don't call it corporation. And speaking of, because it's funny because the United States corporation is incorporated right here where I am. So it is, it's interesting that, because I did find that I did go to the Delaware Secretary of State, pull down the actual incorporation of the United States. I believe it was in 1989, the last one that I saw that they did here. And it was as a nonprofit religious corporation. Kind of got you frozen there. Let me see, y'all. I guess I said something. I must have said something bad. They got us frozen. Let me see. What about the next day? Let me see, y'all. We have to figure out what's going on. He'll come back in. Listen, while we're waiting for Kevin to come back, I want you to press that like, thumbs up, share, thumbs up, like. Somebody said, keep your mouth shut. Is that what are you telling me, to keep my mouth shut? We have to say things. We have to say what we have to say, but we need to, we know that we are being screened. Let me see. I believe he's calling me on the phone, y'all. Yes.
Hey, my power just went out of my house.
What?
It was a power surge, yeah.
Is that what happened? Okay, come on back in then. So they're probably cutting us off. Okay. Man, that's great. All right. Well, we're waiting. I'll see if. Okay, thank you. Interesting. He had a power surge in his home, and everything just went off. So he's getting ready to log back on. They don't want you to get this knowledge. They don't want us. Yes, where can you find the books that Kevin is talking about? You can go to, I guess I should have put that on there. Real Nagas, realnagas.com, I believe it is. Okay. I will post this information. I'm just waiting for him to get back on. You all are. Thank you so much for your patience. He has got to log back in. And let me just take some look at the comments while we said the discussion was getting too electric. Probably was. He was getting ready to give you some information. Wow. Let me see. Sure. So please love asking what's free with the purchase. That's right. Yeah. So you can get the police stop package free. I see where somebody said it. If you purchase the melanin melanin book, or if you don't purchase the melanin book, there's a separate price for those documents. Let me see. I'm trying to wait to get him back here because I want to ask him some more questions about these oaths and bonds and so forth. Let me see. I want to. We need remedies, Dr. G. Yeah, well, I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask some more questions. We got some time. Now I get the brother back on here. We're trying to see. I'm always looking for remedies and so forth. How many of y'all saw Tuesday Night with Mother Kai? And she's she's on fire. Mother Kai has a YouTube page too that I just found out about, and you guys need to go over there. She needs to get some followers. You need to follow her because the sister is really, really, really on point. Really on point. Yeah, he had a power surge. That's what he said. He called me. He said everything. So he's trying to get back on. Well, hopefully. Abe Lincoln was a Moor. That's true. That's why they put him on the copper penny, y'all. That's why they put Lincoln on the penny. Yeah. Saw Taj dancing on YouTube. Grand Sheik, matter of fact, he's here. I'm gonna have to grab him and come up here and say something to you all. Oh wow. Let me see. I saw it watching, but the feed kept breaking up, so I got frustrated. Yeah, if you missed Tuesday night, please go back. Here we go. I think I got him coming in. Let me see. Are you back?
Yeah, sorry, man. It was
okay. We were talking. We were talking about some. Yeah, mother. Yeah.
Okay. Everything went out in the house. It was a power surge. Like
they said it was too much. It was too much coming out. Too much information. It's funny for some reason. I'm looking at the feed and everything kind of is moving like real slow and everything. So there's something is going on.
When I move, I'm moving.
You doing like the Matrix and my stuff. We're doing, and I've never seen that stuff before. It's like we're in another. Like everything is moving sort of like slow motion. Yeah,
they're trying to mess with the stream.
yes. Look, before it's over, I will post Mother Kai's YouTube link up because, like I said, I just got it myself and listened to her the next day. Peace. Well, you were talking about the police stop. I know that this is available. This information. No, here's what I wanted to say. I think I asked you a question about when you said if you want to get out of the system versus.
Oh, yeah.
I think I was asking you that when we had the power surge, because a lot of people, do paperwork. And I heard you said that whatever it is you did, it was the first time it had been done, or you didn't know of anyone who had done it. Have others since then? Because there's a lot of people out with packages and nationality and birthright paperwork and cards and whatever, passports, this travel, right to travels and whatever. What do you do? Because even though there's about 600 folks listening right now, there'll be several thousand that'll be listening before the day. People like someone said, they want remedies. I try to bring information, inspiration and confirmation, but we are in a time when we need to know what to do and a lot of times how to do it. And unfortunately, a lot of people, if they say they have an answer, a solution, sometimes they put it out of the reach financially of the average person who would need it. And somehow, I've learned that if you can corner the market, so to speak, in other words, if you can deal with numbers, in other words, and there's a number of people that need what you want, then you don't have to charge them an arm and a leg because you're going to get it by sheer volume. If what you have is the real deal. And I'm not saying you per se, but I'm saying anyone who tries to, if you think you can get it all out of one person, that it doesn't work like that.
No. But I mean, my paperwork is different because most people will try to separate themselves from the system. You know, they'll try to, I'm completely out of the government. This is, I'll give away my Social Security. I give away my, I give away this. I give away that. Most people don't know those things, those paperwork, those pieces of paper, your driver's license, Social Security number. All those things are actually bonds that this corporation opens up on you at birth, and they use them to fund the corporation. So you actually don't want to throw away those bonds. You actually want to claim those bonds. That's a different side of the game. But the reason I'm saying that is because my paperwork allows you to be in the system and out of the system at the same time, because you're not dealing with a government, you're dealing with a corporation. So corporations only obligate you by contract. So how do you make yourself unobligated to a corporation? Is by contract, is by severing the contract, or what's called rescission of contract. So by doing that, you basically take yourself out of the jurisdiction of the system. But because they don't leave you a viable alternative, basically your own government to be able to run, because they've taken over everything, it's placing you under duress. So it's basically you're only using their things under duress, which in any law makes you it takes away the obligation of anything. So it makes you it's non-binding. Anything that you do under duress is non-binding in law, because you are forced to do it. So the paperwork that I have, it allows you to sever your contracts. It allows you to claim your status and sever the contracts with the government, but it also allows you to be able to stay within the system, because you have to be here. It's not like you're going to leave. You're not going to sever your contracts and immediately vanish and go to the planet of Moors or the planet of Aboriginals, where you got a whole nation of people just chilling with you. So until that happens, you have to be in it, but not of it. And so that's what my paperwork allows you to do.
Do you consult with Moors who want to use your same process to be in it but not of it? And is that something, or do you teach a course in it?
No, I didn't give this paperwork to anybody. I just started or opened it up to people being able to access the paperwork, and you just can't get it you have to. The only way to get the paperwork is to sign up to the Patreon. You have to go through classes. I did status classes, and you have to still go study those classes, because if you can't explain the paperwork, it's going to get you in more trouble than help you. So, and it's so much, the paperwork is so intricate. It's the law in it is so intricate that, most lawyers, they have to go through it and study it and take out law books and study it and do that type of stuff. So
how would they, I should have done some links, but I didn't I want to post something, because I'm sure there are those that are going to want to see how they can take those classes. How do they contact you? If
you want to do the status classes, you just go to patreon.com/realnagas and sign up to the status class level. That's
Patreon.
Yeah, PAR.
I got it.
Okay.
And then what comes after the com and the slash?
Real Nagas.
Oh, all one word?
Yeah, /Real Nagas. Mm-hmm.
Okay. For status classes. Okay.
But so, again, knowing the law is the main thing, because having paperwork doesn't free you. Because if somebody takes your paperwork and they pee on it, or they rip it up, they burn it, what are you going to do after they do that? You're sovereign because of what you know, not because of what you have. And so if you can't explain it, then you're not truly sovereign. So that's why I have you go through the classes before you get the paperwork. But if you go through the classes, I give you the paperwork for free. So that's how.
Yeah, someone asked if how does that work with House Joint Resolution 192?
Yeah, the paperwork covers all of that. The paperwork covers gold, and you using debt instruments. You're using debt instruments because you're forced to. So again, that's under duress. Anything that's done under duress, it doesn't bind you by law. So that's why you say, when a police officer pulls you over and they tell you to do something, you don't do it, or you do it only saying, I'm doing it if I'm only doing it under duress. That way you don't get hit with resisting arrest, but you're doing it under duress. So then when you go back and you want to get the police officer later, then anything that they made you do, they can't say that you complied out of your own. You basically consented, because if you consent, then police you can't reprimand a police officer. And so that's what they do. Most of the things that they do, they'll tell you something and they'll say it like it's an order, but it's not. It's more so of a request or a statement, but you take it as an order, and then they go back when you say, well, he told me to do this, and then police officer, well, I didn't, he did it on his own, really. I didn't say he lawfully had to do it. And so then they get off because you consented. So
yeah, so we got to learn how. Like somebody said here, keep your mouth shut. you have to learn how. Because I had a brother Lamont L on a few months ago, and he was saying how at one point, because he ended up spending about 5 years or so in about this mansion in Maryland, but he said that at one point when he went before the magistrate, that he was told basically what you said, that you are here voluntarily. And so he said, you mean to tell me, he said, you made voluntary appearances, so you mean to tell me I didn't have to come? No, but he says, well, I'm leaving. He says, no, you're here now.
Man, see, this is also one of the things I teach. Most people think you have to go to court. You do not have to walk into court. That is law. You don't have to take your physical body to court. See, the word appear means to formally submit yourself to the jurisdiction of the court. It doesn't mean to show up and be seen. So when they give you an order to appear, that means, do you submit to the jurisdiction of the court? You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. There's something called a special appearance, which means I'm challenging the jurisdiction of the court, which means until you prove that you have jurisdiction over me, I don't have to do anything you say. And so you send that paperwork to them. You don't go in there and tell them. You send, just like they send you paperwork. Are they coming to your house and sitting with you and talking to you? No. So don't go to their house and sit and talk to them. You send them paperwork just like they send you paperwork. and that's how it works. Literally, I again got two warrants wiped away without having to walk into court. This is California courts too. The most serious courts in all the United States, because they're all about money.
Question is, asked TZG asked if you are considered a secured party creditor.
No, I don't do UCC.
No, okay. All right. I see somebody says there's a person in Diani, I hope I'm not messing up your appellation L. I ordered it over a month ago and haven't received it yet. I saw you doing a show recently, and you were telling people around Christmas what happened around the Christmas time and everything, that you had the one things and you were waiting for the other pieces to come in. So to be patient. So people like to put stuff in the chat, but if that may sometimes get the attention. But I did see you do recently a YouTube video, and you talked about you had to get both parts. Something was being printed.
Somebody stole a box of constitutional rights cards.
Oh, really?
Right, the FedEx. Yeah, somebody at, not FedEx, but UPS. Somebody at the UPS office stole a box of constitutional rights cards. So y'all see somebody selling constitutional rights cards, buy them, but get back at me and let me know, because they jacked them. But then I had to replace them. But then then you're dealing with, we're in lockdown. I'm in Los Angeles, everybody. This is lockdown territory. Most businesses aren't supposed to be open. So that includes printer shops. So my printer dude is doing this on the low for me. So we're working around Los Angeles law to get these books out, just so y'all know.
Yeah. So when it comes to the classes, the status classes, do you start ever so often you start a new series, or does it depend on whenever a person signs up, do they start there? Are they pre-recorded
they're pre-recorded, so you can watch them anytime you want, start, stop them, sit with your family.
Is there a test or some type of exam so that that they can stand on that paperwork? Once
you're studying, then we start, because when you do the paperwork, we have, we'll do a consultation. If you you sign up to that level, we do consultations, a consultation a week. And then once I see that you're learning it, I give you a test. I give you a series of questions that you can answer. You can answer that. You can answer that. These are mostly the stuff that's on the paperwork. So you can answer the questions, then you can explain the paperwork.
Yeah. So
questionnaire.
Yeah. So this is just some information. And like I said, I know a lot of people. I get a lot of calls about nationality and birthright. And of course, I do send them to someone to get their paperwork done. But for the most part, most people probably are not very well studied. They'll get their paperwork, and if something does come up, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know the next steps. They don't know where to send it to put anybody on notice. I mean, they have it, but they probably just have it. They don't have their, like even myself, don't have your belongings secured by trust, different things that we need to do. And so many, we need classes to help people understand these laws, so that when they do, I know you have to have your own energy on it. And that's the thing. If you can't put yourself in it, you can't defend it.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Absolutely. If you can't put yourself in it, then you cannot defend it. And this is why I didn't give the paperwork to people for, close to 17 years. I had it, and I just didn't give it to anybody. I had people offering me $10,000 for the paperwork, and I didn't give it to them. Because if I give it to you, you can do more harm to yourself, but you can also do more harm to what I wrote, what I did in the paper. Because if you hand this paperwork over to somebody, the wrong person, and then they take it and they hand it to the wrong people, and they in the wrong hands gets it before we're able to actually do our damage with it, then you messed it up for us. So that's why I didn't give it to anybody for a long time.
And we have quite a few Moors that are in other jurisdiction, other countries and so forth, the Caribbean and in the UK, and even, all over. I can't even name the places that people, and they want to know, well, what about them when it comes, if they're not here in Mexam, north of Mexam, what do they do if they're in the Caribbean or if they're over in the UK? What can they take those classes, and then with the same paperwork, would it work for them, or does it have to be tweaked for the place that they domicile?
Well, if they did it, they would have to, I made the paperwork generic for America. So I didn't, when I wrote it, I wrote it so that people could follow behind me and use it if they needed to. I guess you can take the principles of it and then see what your laws is and how, certain laws are synonymous or similar to what's in the paperwork, and then revamp the paperwork that way. But it is made for America. But if you're indigenous or if you're Aboriginal, like I said, around the world, you can claim that status. That is the highest status, because any government that you see that's around the world that's not Aboriginal is not the rightful government of that land. You're the Aboriginal people. You're the first people on that land, and Aboriginal indigenous rights are the first rights in the world. They'll tell you that with the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. So that's a universal thing, and so most countries have adopted that, including America. So anybody, like I said, whatever country you're in, if you're indigenous, if you're Aboriginal to that country, you have the higher status, and so you need to find out what your status is and start to reclaim that. And you can start with like I said, the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. And so this is where you can start to pull up your rights in your land. But it is made for America specifically, because that's where I am. This is where I'm Aboriginal too. But Aboriginals, you have a remedy all over the world. You have the first rights to the land. Mm-hmm. That's known even to the Caucasian people. But they know, if you don't know that, if you don't know your status and come back and claim that, then they got you. So this is why they'll flip your status and say, yeah, you want to be a Brit, you want to be a Brit, you want to be an American, you want to be this and that, because these are corporate statuses that take you out of your Aboriginal status. If I come and give you, if I come and give you another different jersey, you know, you're supposed to be on my team, but you wearing somebody else's jersey, then you can't get in the game. So that's and that's specifically also for the melanated people in America, why they term you, and this is actually around the world, the term black. The term black is a legal term that means slave. White means master. These are legal terms that if you don't know that, because the term black actually became prominent over here. They didn't use color to describe, or other countries didn't use color to describe themselves. They would call themselves by their country. I'm Nigerian, I'm Ghanaian, I'm, whatever country, you are, that's what you would call yourself. Even Caucasian, I'm British, or, I'm Irish, or you called yourself by your nationality, right? Your country. So calling yourself by a color is completely some brand new stuff. And that was created because it's a status in law that has no power. Calling yourself by a color gives you absolutely zero power. It doesn't connect you to any land, any nation, anything. Color, and also that's why there's something called color of law, which means the word color in law means the semblance without the substance, meaning it looks like it, but it's not real. And that's because in actuality, anything that you look at with color means it doesn't have that color. It's only reflecting that color. That's the science of light. In the science of light, anything that you see that's a certain color, it's not that object is not that color. It's only reflecting that part of the light spectrum. So melanated people, the reason you look dark, and you go from different stages from light brown to the purple, is because you're reflecting UV light. And so whatever spectrum of that UV light you're reflecting, that will be your color, depending on the amount of melanin that you're in. So you're not black, you're just reflecting UV light, which is why you look dark. So let's get that straight. But in law, when you call yourself black, you take yourself out of position to reclaim what was yours, especially when you take on a status that was created by someone else. Even the term American, the term American, Aboriginal people didn't even use the term American over here. We were called Amaruka. That was Amaruka was the land of the feathered serpent, the dragon. And so if you call yourself an Amarukan, then that's something different. But an American is a term that they made up. And so you place that on yourself, then you're taken out of jurisdiction. These things mean something in law, whether you know it or not.
Wow, it's interesting that I'm looking at like a little part of, we won't get into talk about the melanin book, but I had printed out, proof pages from the ebook version, and it talked about the page I printed talks about hot skin. And it's basically what you're talking about, because we're hot. Apparently, the pigment of the skin, like all the black bodies, and this is what they wrote.
Right.
Only a small part of incident light, which is therefore mainly transformed into heat. And it says, I'm just switching over. The strongly pigmented skins are hotter, maintaining the absorbed heat longer, and have more difficult, it says, hydric exchange than white skins. The quality of melanin can also influence the production of vitamin D. And isn't that a lot? Vitamin D is significant, that we've been deprived of being out in the sun and absorbing natural vitamin D and so forth. So tell us about the melanin research book, how you came about, to put this together. I know you didn't write it, but you compiled it from something has been done for years in studying us.
Yeah. So there's an organization called the International Federation of Pigment Cell Societies. So that means that there are pigment cell societies in every country. These are societies that study the pigment cell, the melanin. It's called the melanocyte, right? That's the melanin cell. There are literally different countries that have societies. That means different scientific groups that come together in these countries that discuss the melanocyte or the melanin cell. Now, these all these groups that are formed in these different countries, they all come together. All these different groups come together every 3 to 4 years to a conference, the Pigment Cell Conference, and they discuss everything that they found, all the discoveries they found regarding the melanocyte, the melanin cell. This has been going on. This research has been going on for 114 years. So the book has compiled the research for 114 years. And how I got into it is because I was researching. I used to be a personal trainer and martial arts trainer coach. So I created a philosophy called Omology. So so there's different Om when you meditate, Om, but then Om in physics, OHM means resistance. Okay, it's resistance to energy. So basically, just give you a quick background, the Om, or the what's called Ohm's law, means just try to break it down simply. Ohm's law basically means like the energy that goes through something, the energy that moves through a certain medium, like so electricity moving through a wire. So Ohm's law would be the resistance, the thin wire is resisting the energy that's moving through it. So therefore, as the energy moves through the wire, it produces heat. It's losing energy in the form of heat as it moves through that medium, that wire, right? Mm-hmm. So the Ohm's law basically means the energy that's gotten out of something, the energy that you receive out of something, is proportional or equal to the energy that goes into it, right? So that basically how you finish is how you start is how you finish. So when I was doing the research on Ohm's law, it led me to superconductivity, and so in semiconductivity. So when I was doing the research on semiconductors, a semiconductor is the same thing. A semiconductor is when energy moves through a certain medium, it loses energy from point A to point B. Okay, that's a semiconductor because it's losing some energy. It's not as strong at the end as it was at the beginning because it's losing energy as it moves. A superconductor means that the energy moves from point A to point B without loss of energy at all, right? It's going back and forth without any loss of energy. The way that happens is point A and point B have to be on the same frequency. If 2 points are on the same frequency, no matter where they are in the universe, energy can move back and forth between those 2 points forever. So that's called superconductivity versus semiconductivity. So when I was doing the research, they were it led me to this page that was said organic superconductors, or excuse me, organic semiconductors. I was like, what's an organic semiconductor? And I clicked on it, and it says something about melanin being an organic semiconductor. And I was like, what? And then it started talking about how if melanin is turned on when 200 volts, when they ran, this is a scientific experiment they were doing. They said when they ran 200 volts through the melanin, it turned on like a switch. They said it flicked on like a switch. And it said it had an on and off switch. 200 volts through melanin turns the melanin on. I was like, what? I was like, wait, what are they talking about? So then it had a link to this other site, this scientist, this Italian scientist named Nicholas Rodolfo Alessandro, and he had started melanin research like in the 50s, and so it had all the basic research that Italy had done on melanin, and it was breaking off everything. Basically, how melanin is melanin. So in science, there's something called as we just talked about, there's a superconductor, but usually to get superconductivity, you have to freeze something all the way down to like 450 degrees below zero. So they're always looking for something called a room temperature superconductor, right? Something that they don't have to freeze. Melanin is that room temperature superconductor that they're trying to figure out the properties of melanin so that they can take that and get it at a room state superconductor, meaning we're already walking around with it.
Wow.
We're superconductors. This is why if melanated people, if you're what you call on the same vibration with somebody, man, it's completely different. This is where the no look passes come from in basketball and all that type of stuff, because when you're vibrating on the same frequency with somebody, that energy is flowing back and forth. You don't have to think about it. And so you're what's called superconducting, and this is all within the melanin book. I was like, wait a minute, what? And this is all in his research, in this guy's research. And so I'm looking through it. Then it starts, talking about how melanin converts sound to energy. Basically, you can be in the dark and you can bang on a table or stomp your foot, and melanin would absorb that vibration and convert it to energy for your body.
Wow.
And I'm like, it was blowing my mind. But then, I got a comic book background. I'm going back to all the comics that's back in the day. These are comics like Black Panther. He has a suit of vibranium. I was like, wait a minute, that's Black Panther. That's what Black Panther suit do. It absorbs vibration and retransmutes the vibration to energy. I was like, wait a minute. Then there's a comic of Spider-Man. There's some black stuff like this. Somebody goes to space and brings back something called a black symbiote. It's like this black oily type of stuff, but it's alive, and it gets on Superman and it turns him black, and then he turns more aggressive, and he's stronger, and he's more aggressive, and he's more gangster. But its weakness is vibration. So the way you kill it is to vibrate really loud, and it can't deal with the vibration, it jumps off. So I'm like, wait a minute, they've been putting this stuff in TV shows and and comics for years. All of this stuff with the superhero stuff. And so that led me to start doing the research on superhero stuff. And that's where, that's where I really got into God classes, because the God classes, the superheroes that you see nowadays, the guy who created Jack Kirby, he said that he studied ancient Kemet, Kemet is Egypt. He studied the ancient Khemetans and the gods and this and that. And he brought that all into the comic book. So everything that you're seeing in comic books are literally a plagiarism of the gods of Kemet, of Egypt.
Is it possible that I heard you talk about vibrations and how the vibrations affect the melanin in the body, that certain music and certain things that they're, frequencies that are being played, even subliminal ones, are being focused on us to destabilize us, to take away our superpowers, so to speak, and so forth. I mean, is that possible that's because they've been doing so much research for so long? And is it possible that they're directing, even their energy type weapons towards, the destabilization of melanin rich people?
They could be, but when you look in the book and you start to do the research, melanin is one of the strongest substances in the universe. They have a hard time doing research on it, because it's such a strong bonded structure. Like, so when they try to pierce into the melanocyte, the melanin cell, they can't pierce into it. Like, they tried to shoot a laser at it and it burst into more pieces of itself. So they have to really jam something. They really have to jam the needle in there to really burst the melanocyte to really get in there, because when they tried to do it at first, it wouldn't break. So it's one of the strongest things, in the universe.
Where do they get melatonin from and things like they sell on the market? Where's that stuff come from?
Melatonin is they get it from your.
Right. I'm wondering how would they get that stuff? Where it come from? Is it in plants or?
No, it's in your pineals and dead people's pineal gland. So, melatonin, which is produced by the pineal gland. You need some melatonin is used in the production of melanin. So if you don't produce any melatonin, you can't produce melanin. And so they have to go inside the bodies and get the pineal glands And so they can't get it out of people's pineal glands who's been calcified. So they have to get it out of people's pineal glands who are not calcified, which would
like
be
young people.
huh?
Young people. Younger people, maybe.
No, there's melanated people.
Oh, so, melanated people. But I guess I heard that a lot of us have a calcified, pineal gland.
No, it ain't. It's not calcified. If it was calcified, you wouldn't produce melatonin.
Ah, so that's a myth.
Yes. They found, so just to give you, what is it? The war in the Vietnam War. So when they started shipping the bodies back over from Vietnam, because it was basically just a drug war. When they were shipping the bodies back over from Vietnam, and they were doing research on the bodies, they had found that in Caucasian people, or at least 80% of their pineals were calcified. But in the melanated people, their pineal glands were 80% uncalcified in the bodies.
Okay.
This is in the soldiers' bodies. So again, melanated people, you can't, if your pineal gland is calcified, you won't produce melatonin, which means you can't produce melanin. You wouldn't have any melanin. If your pineal gland is calcified, you wouldn't have melanin. So
what's the difference then between the calcification of the pineal gland or the fact that if a person is not able to really see with their first eye, which they call the third eye, normally we're told that it's supposed, there may be some calcification there, or it may be blockage or so forth. So how does one begin to stimulate the actual workings of that first eye?
Vibration, knowledge is the enlightenment is the key to anything. So the more knowledge and information that you get, the more you raise your frequency and vibration. If you raise your frequency, remember everything has a certain frequency. Even the calcium that would be around the pineal gland would have a certain vibration and frequency. Everything does. If you raise the frequency of that pineal gland above that calcium, then it wouldn't affect it anymore. And that's all with learning. The more and more you learn, the more information you get, you raise your vibration constantly. You're constantly elevating. So if one felt that they had a calcified pineal gland, because there are enlightened Caucasian people out here, their pineal glands are calcified, but because they study and they want it, and they pull that frequency in, they're able to obtain the information.
Yeah. And one such one, and I mean, I'm always trying to tell people, when I find somebody who seems to have knowledge, just like, when I first started talking about you, because when I hear somebody who's like on point and has something that touches me, then I want others to get what I got. And so when you mentioned some of the Albans, the Caucasian, one such Albion that I thoroughly enjoy listening to is one named Matt. He has a YouTube site, Matthew LaCroix, and and he goes by Matt LaCroix, LaCroix, and he has such knowledge of he and Billy Carson are doing some things together. But when I see the depth of his research and he was talking about one thing, he gets into the sort of like even the Inkian and little stuff, but he was talking about one conversation on the tablets, because he can read a lot of the tablets, where they talked about the black-headed gods.
Well, yeah, Sagiga. So the Sumerians, their actual name was the Sagiga. And so we call them Sumerians, but they call themselves Sagiga, which meant the dark-headed ones. Mm-hmm. Literally, they were called the dark-headed ones.
Yeah, he said black-headed, but it was still, like I said. But he has a lot of information. Matter of fact, I just got one of his books in today that I purchased. It's just because wherever I see what resonates, and again, we're talking about energy vibration also with things, people that are listening, is what resonates with you. I do notice that a lot of times though, when we share books and people and so forth, this crowd, this group that frequents this channel tends to take our word for it and goes and gets that. And I wouldn't say 100% that everybody's going to get the same warm feeling or the same light bulb going on, but the majority of people do, because there's a resonance, and certain people follow certain, certain presenters because they're seeking, they're seeking truth. Like you were seeking truth. I was seeking truth. These, men and women on here are seeking the truth. We've been lied to long enough, and my thing is, when are we going to unify? When are we going to come together? When are we going to take that collective knowledge and put it together for the collective good? When are we going to be able to throw it all in the pot and make the stew that nourish us all? You know what I mean?
It's hard to do that when you don't know who you are, though. When you have to be secure in who you are in order to be secure with someone else. And that's any relationship. It's in a male and female relationship. If two people get together and they don't know who they are, that relationship not gonna last that long. So if the lack of information of who we are, like the term, like you said, when they use the term black, that term, the word black is a low vibration. I know most people think, oh, I'm black. They think they feel good when they use it, but it's not. It's a low vibration. It means pale or yellow. It doesn't mean dark.
Right.
The history of it means pale or yellow. And just because you want it to mean dark doesn't mean it mean that. It doesn't mean it means that today.
But we have so many things that we have tagged with that. Black girl magic, black power, Black Lives Matter, on and on, Black history. And nobody wants to relieve themselves of the fact that it's an era. And you're allowing yourself to, identify yourself inherently with something that doesn't mean who you are. But yet because you've attached so much significance to it, we don't want to let it go. Black power, Black history, Black, Black girl magic, with just goes on and on and on.
I call it a disease blanket. The word black is a disease blanket for melanated people, because it keeps you warm and cuddly and feeling good inside, but it's literally killing you with the disease, with the virus that it has on it. It does you no good. It makes you feel like you warm and you actually doing good, but it's literally destroying you, killing you. Just like the blankets, the disease blankets that they threw to the Aboriginals when the colonists came over here. They thought they were giving them, hey man, don't y'all want some blankets? Y'all cold. And they gave them all the disease blankets and killed a lot of the Aboriginals by doing that. So that's the term black, or the word black, is doing that for melanated people today, because it's a word that was imported from America to around the world. Now most melanated people around the world will call themselves black when they didn't do that before. It was an American thing. The term black in history meant, so you had different words that correlated with the term black. So everybody need to go get the Ancient and Modern Britons if you haven't gotten that.
Right.
The Ancient and Modern Britons, the first and second one. But in there they talk about how the term black was in different nations or different tribes. So if you were the dominant tribe, you were called Ak, or white. This is the terms for, this is the term. It meant independent. It meant you were the dominant. If you were subservient or dependent on another tribe or nation, you were called Kur, or black. And so it literally, these terms, white and black, meant independent and dependent or subservient. But then in the ancient, the etymology of it, black goes back to bleak or blake, which means pale or yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So these are terms that we didn't use to describe ourselves. And so when you take upon this energy and this vibration, because a color does not describe a thing. It does not describe what a thing is or what something is. It describes what it looked like. Well,
it's funny. We say we're not crayons, and I think it was like a year or two. It was before the COVID. So was it 2 years ago? I went and I had to get some blood work done, and I posted this picture because it was the funniest thing. When they put a Band-Aid on you when you give blood or have to have blood taken, they put a yellow crayon Band-Aid on me. On my, I'm not a child, but the woman put a crayon on a Band-Aid that looked like a yellow Crayola crayon. I on my arm. To cover where she's taking the blood. And it was just, I am not a crayon. know, we're
we're not crayons, but we all crayons in the box though. Let especially the American government tell it. You're red, you're white, you're black, you're brown. you got all these different things. And just to show the illusion, that melanated people are caught up in, they call themselves black. But even if black meant what you thought it meant, if it meant what you thought it would, this would mean black. I'm not the same color as this.
Right, that's what somebody said. You got your shirt is black.
These aren't the same color. So the fact that you want to use that and you use it as a term of power it's an illusion. You literally look at two different shades and would call yourself one thing that is literally not the same shade as what you're calling it. What the fuck are you doing? It makes absolutely no sense. So,
yeah, there's a book, and I highly recommend it too. Some of y'all already have this, but this particular book, Word Magic, I don't know if you can see it. By Paul Chang, and it talks about the powers and occult definitions of words. You know, brother that comes to used to come to the House of Reawakening Minds when we were open, turned me onto the book, gave me a copy of that book, and then I joined. He actually has a web where you can a membership thing that you can, and basically he has a lot of his paperwork and things that he's done, and he says the same thing that you said. You got to don't copy my paperwork, study it, and then make it your own.
Right. The term grammar, which we use for words,
that's like grimoire, right? And the spell books.
From grammar, or glamour, which was the grimoire, the witch's spell book, right? Which means the magical enchantment of words.
Yeah.
The definition of grammar is the magical enchantment of words. So grammar came after. Glamour was the first word.
Glamour.
First. Grammar was used, but glamour was changed to grammar by a writer in a book, like I think in the 1600s or 1700s. But it was glamour all the way up until then. And so it literally meant the magical enchantment of words. So this is how, this is why you have to do the wordplay. You have to do the study, the etymology, because no matter what you think you're changing the word to, if you don't know what it began with, if you don't know the vibration that the word began with, you can't change it. You didn't create that word. So how you think you're going to change the vibration of it if you didn't create it unless you know what it is first?
Right. You have to I have a word. I mean, and I made my own word up, and it's going to be the title of my new book. And so I went to research the word, and I couldn't find it on Google. It just dropped out, it just dropped down and said, "This is who you are." And I said, okay. And then I said, well, let me look that up. And I searched high and I searched low. And then later on, I heard the voice say, and this is what it means. And I said, okay. And so when my next book comes out, you'll know it. I mean, everyone will know it, because that was the word, in the beginning, when they say was the word, and the word was where? It was with God.
Right. See, because everything
and the word was God. Yeah. And the word was God, because that word is, and so I got a whole different meaning to that. And that word, yeah.
Well, everything is frequency and vibration. So that's, it goes back at the beginning of the word was God. Yeah, everything that you see in existence is a result of some frequency or vibration. And if you go and do the study of cymatics, which is vibrations relation to form. So you can see cymatic experiments where they take a black plate and some sand or podium, or lycopodium, which is pollen, and they put it on the plate and they run a frequency through it. And the higher the frequency, the more complex the form that'll show. So that shows you no matter
it starts to move. I think you show like it begins to make geometric.
Yes, all these patterns. beautiful patterns and forms, like patterns that you would see in Islamic art and stuff like that. These are frequencies these are definite frequencies. No matter what you see them at, if you see that shape in that form, that means it holds this frequency. Literally, no matter where it is. So every definite frequency holds a definite shape. So in understanding that, then you see that everything in existence has to have a frequency. It's a result of a frequency and vibration. If you can find the resonant frequency with that, then you find the secret to its existence. And so they know that. That's why they got sound weapons that can disrupt your body, like, that they can aim at you, that can disrupt the frequency in your body. This is how they can cause people to have heart attacks and what they call natural cause deaths from far away, because they can hit you with frequency weapons that can disrupt the kidney or your heart or your, or your liver. I mean, it's an intricate science, but it's an old science.
But is a person who is enlightened and aware, is there ways that we can protect ourselves from vibrational energy attack? I mean, I wear, organite and
right here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So things like that. Right. So, I'm wearing an energy. I'm wearing some technology, and I know this looks like I got a black, a black piece of rubber around my neck, but I'm actually wearing something that has black tourmaline and cybin.
There you go.
And on my arm also, I'm wearing it, and I'm wearing stuff that I got Jerry Miller's. I'm one of his representatives. I got, what do you call that? Organite pendant necklaces with a red with a green star. You have to put I've got pyramids around, and I want
people to know though that you're not, when Caucasians alarm you about certain things, you're not the same. I just want to be, your melanin makes you different. And I know you don't know that, so you believe that things affect you the same as they may do Caucasian people, but they don't. Vibration affects melanated people differently. You absorb it. You absorb vibration. So anything like 5G, when they're going to hit people with 5G is going to definitely do some damage, but it's not going to do the same type of damage to melanated people as it do Caucasian people, because your melanin will absorb that vibration and transmute it to energy for your body. Do you understand? Your melanin is an intelligence. It's smart. I can't tell you because you don't understand. It goes through this book, but they even said that the reason for the civil rights movement was because black people's melanin was turned on. There's a quote from the scientists. They said the reason for the civil rights movement was because your melanin was turned on. So
just imagine if we could just turn. How did they turn it on? So we need to turn it on again so that we can.
We're on the same vibration and frequency, one mind. In that civil rights movement, we all had one goal, was to be on the same equal plane as the Caucasian people in that system, no matter whether it was the right goal to have or not. But we were all on one plane. Even the same thing with the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers were on one frequency. You saw how powerful that was. When you're vibrating on one frequency, when you're doing it and you're going back, they can't stop that. Well, they did, because they turned us against each other, but that was the only way they was able to stop it. They can't stop it. They have to turn you against yourself. But when we're vibrating like that, they know that there's nothing they can do to break that frequency. They have to make us do it to ourselves. So if you want to protect yourself though, Organ, you want to Organ pyramids, these take negative vibrations and transmute them to positive frequencies. So
I even have pictures that Jerry Miller, who I've had on the show, matter of fact, back in May, Jerry's in Sedona, and
that's my spot. Go there. That's my place.
Yeah. So we need to protect ourselves, and I've been dealing with his organite for years. And people used to come to House of Reawakening Minds and purchase the organite pendants, and I just dropped it. But anyway, I'm coming back in blurry. But just by putting this on me or putting it in somebody's hand to see the power of this thing. You ever did the test with the organite?
My test was when I first got it. When I first got it, I had the pyramids next to the computer. I had 4 of them around the computer, and I couldn't hold a internet connection, and so it kept dropping. Like literally, my computer was fine before I brought the pyramids out. As soon as I put the pyramids next to the computer, the internet kept dropping. So then I called up the cable place, and they was like, well, we're showing that it's working fine from here. It was like, we don't show any disruption. And so they was like, well, we'll try and hit it again. So they tried to reset it, and they was like, all right, it should be working fine. They took off, calls start dropping. The internet, it started dropping again until I took the pyramids and moved them into my bedroom, and I put them behind something, and then that's when the internet started working.
Well, with this, what I can do with something like this to show the power of it, and I demonstrated it over and over at the House of Real Making Minds. I would take this off me and put it in, say, the pocket of my subject, and before I put them in their pocket, I would take it off and put it aside, and I would have them link their hands together, put their hands behind their back, and stand flat-footed. And I could take my 2 fingers and press down in the middle of their hand and move them off of their square. I put this in their pocket, and then I go back, and they are like a rock. Yeah. But not only that, then I'll have 2 or 3 other people get up, and they'll touch. Mm-hmm. And that same energy is running all the way through 3 or 4 people that are standing there. And it's amazing how, so if it's running that through you and protecting you like that, I mean, these are the things that we're not taught that we need. Right. And my friend Jerry has a galactic connection. That's why they ended up in Sedona. He and his consort. They know where they've come from. They know, they talk to a group called Us and We. They tell them what to put in the stuff and everything, and I believe them. And I wear their stuff. But there are things that we can get that people just don't realize that these, and I have copper pyramids with double, with inverted that he makes, and then you can even sit under them. You can stand. You can add the copper legs to them, and then you could get under the pyramid. And there's so many things. We were talking about, Grand Sheik and I think we were talking about the fact that flat, squared off buildings were created to start to hinder our energy, because when our Moorish architecture, we had more of, I guess it was a way to deal with the energy in a better way.
We would come, a lot of, you talking about like in Islam, the minarets that were on top.
Or those other things that they, things that are like teepees or pyramids.
Well, we don't want to call them teepees. That's a
whatever they call. Well, they call it yurts, wigwams, yurt. They have yurts and all those different things. But I realize the shape is not square,
right?
And most of us live in square structures.
Right. This is energy. This is energy producing. This right here is energy producing,
and this is energy hindering.
Energy, yes, square is energy hindering. Absolutely.
So if you're in a place where it's squared off, then you need to get the pyramids or something to put, like something, even one that you can sit under, or I mean, I can set the pyramids over my food under the pyramid, different things. I mean, there's so much stuff.
Absolutely. Meditation pyramid, a big 6 foot that I would sit under and meditate under, and it I had I had Bell's palsy. Like one time I woke up and like my side of my face was like, it was slanted. Like it was almost like I thought I had a stroke, but I went to the doctor and he was like, oh man, so I think you got a bout of Bell's palsy. And so I'm like, I couldn't breathe out of my nose. My eye was slumped, my mouth was slumped over. I couldn't move none of my face. So he was like, you need to go to the emergency room right now. Like he wrote me a note and said, go to the emergency room right now. It's like, tell him Dr. Ruti who sent you. And then, so my girlfriend was with me at the time. I was like, no, don't take me to the emergency room. Take me home. And I said, give me to the pyramid. And so I sat under the pyramid. I meditated for 2 hours. And when if you don't have these pyramids, you can notice the energy inside is noticeably different than the energy outside. It's very cool. And so I jumped in there, and for 2 hours, I meditated to bring the frequency back to my body. And 2 hours later, it was all gone. It was literally, I had complete control of my body after 2 hours.
And it's just so much out there that people that we have the ability within ourselves, and then there's technology that we created that is being reintroduced as new technology, but it's ancient technology.
But
That we can,
tuning fork.
Yeah, absolutely. Tuning forks.
These things, these are essential, especially to melanated people, because your body works off of vibration. Again, there you go.
Yeah, oh, I got you.
There you
I got you. What else you got? What else you got?
Yeah, your body is vibranium. Vibranium, the whole thing, vibranium, is created from melanin. I hope you have to understand. That's why it's Wakanda. That's why it's in Africa. Why do y'all think that's a coincidence that they found a substance called vibranium in Africa that's similar, that's black and dark, that absorbs vibration and transmute the vibration, the energy, just like your melanin? You think that's a coincidence? No. Look, these are how we used to be able to deal with the universe. We would tune ourselves.
Yeah, okay? and you can take that vibration and put it, on a place where, put it wherever it is, and let that vibration go through. Yep. And is this Om? Do you have Om?
Yeah, I have Om. Yep.
Okay, this one. I have like 3 ohms. I was like, why do I have 3 ohms?
That's dope.
432.
432. Get to 432.
I got 432, but I got 3 ohms. So
936 and 6. Wait a minute. These are two of the highest frequencies. Whoa. 2 of the highest frequencies right here. This is 963 and hold on. I think it's 963 and 639.
Okay.
And so these are super high tones. They're very high. This is a super high frequency. This is like crown chakra. This is toning the crown chakra. So again, this is the science that we used to use to help tune ourselves. This is where the temples were about. They were created in certain ways that they would reflect vibration back on the body when you meditated in them and increase your frequency and vibration. This was a known science throughout the world. That's why you see it when you come over here in Mayan temples, or and when you go all the way over to Kemet. It's the same way in Kemet, in the Great Pyramid, the main chamber, what they call a sarcophagus. That's not a sarcophagus. That's a tuning chamber. You would sit. The pharaoh would sit in there. It's a big black stone chamber. Stone is one of the greatest transmitters of frequency and vibration, which is why you got the pyramids, and you got another stone thing inside the pyramid. The pharaoh would lay inside that, and that vibration would resonate within the pharaoh, changing that or raising and elevating the pharaoh's vibration. This is science. I mean, it's a science that they use today called acoustics. That's what acoustics are. When the frequency is redirected into a certain place. This is the science that we were on, where we've completely gotten away from, because everything is on a certain frequency and vibration. And if we can harmonize ourselves with it, then you know what I'm saying, you find the secrets of it.
Yeah, and then there's, like I said, I've been posting for a couple of months about this AO scan. And this thing, I've got it pulled up right now, is called a subtle energy frequency imprinter. And, I'm able to just do stuff with this. I'm able to erase stuff. This is an erase button. So I'm taking the fire. I'm going to erase, like right now, I want to erase, say, negativity that's happening. See that fire that's going? That's a frequency that's playing. So once you erase, then I have an imprinter. So we put our credit cards on here, paperwork and all that, erase whatever energy it is, and then stop it. And then what you do is go into the imprint. And so now we're able to imprint what we want. So if I write here and put a piece of paper here of intentions, then I'm going to hit the imprint, and I'm going to move that intention with this frequency into that thing. So now I got 2 things on. One is it's imprinting one thing into the other. This is technology that belonged to us.
That it is. I mean, you know, the
They
science.
call it life technology, Tesla, and all that, but it's Moorish technology.
It's all science. All more science that they have revamped and renamed and not reclaimed because they didn't claim it in the first place, but but claimed as their own.
Listen, I want to switch up a little bit. I titled this "Enter the Dragon Moor" for a reason, because I want you to tell us the difference of. There were two types of Moors, you know, and I think I determined which one I was based on the depth. You know, you're telling me, but you said also that you can be both. And there's a little bit of both in it. And I said I probably got a little bit of that other stuff in me.
You should be both. It's about the balance.
So tell us about the Dragon Moor versus the Phoenix Moors.
So if you really want to learn about it in depth, you just want to go on my channel and look up the Face of the Dragon documentary that I did on it. It's a whole documentary breaking down the Dragon Moor and the Phoenix Moor. Where they come from. It's in 3 parts, so make sure you're patient because they kept hitting me with copyright things, so I had to break it down. But the dragon and the phoenix, the two symbols, these two mythological creatures in history, were just representations of Moors. There's the two characteristics of the Moors. So dragon comes from the word it means dark. It's a Sanskrit word, it means dark, which means to see. Or it means clear sight. And so a dragon was just someone who with clear sight, a vision, and basically someone who was enlightened. And then Phoenix, Phoenix goes back to the Phoenicians. The creator of Phoenicia was Phoenix. And, if you do the whole, the Greek philosophy, Greek mythology of Greece and Phoenicia, because the Phoenicians come before Greece. And so the Phoenicians were the Canaanite Moors. And these were the maritime, the biggest maritime people, of basically probably in history. Now, I mean, up to date, we got bigger navies, but back then they were the biggest naval maritime force in the world. And, they were, their color was purple. It was because they used to use a dye called murex that they got from the seashell, and they would sell this dye, and the only people who had enough money to buy it was royals. So it would cost like the equivalent of 25 grams. The equivalent of like an ounce of it would be like $25,000. So. Only rich people had enough money to buy it, which is why you saw royals only wearing purple back in the day. It it represented, a person who had enough money to be able to buy this special dye. But so in history, the ancient dragon, when we're getting into the lore of how they split them up and they became these two symbols in history, one of good and one of evil, was because the Moors. So there's two different types of Moors. You got the military. You have the Moors who were in military, who are aggressive, who were involved in the Islamic expansion and that type of stuff. And then you also had the Moors who were scholars. You had scientists and scholars and philosophers and these type of people. And they were two different types of mentalities. The military Moor would smack you. Like the military Moor, he demanded tribute whenever he rolled up onto one of their lands that they had in the empire. When they rolled up, they would demand tribute. You had to give tribute to the Moors. Sometimes it would vary with different things, but most of the time it would be women, children, food. You know what I'm saying? Drink, and some land. And so you would have to give up all of this stuff to the Moors. And so they started to, in history, this Moorish, this what they call this evil being who would demand this tribute and dish out this harsh punishment upon the Christians who would, if they didn't pay that tribute, they became this evil figure to this, to these people, this evil Now the way they became synonymous with dragons was because Sigismund von Luxembourg of that time. So when you had the Crusades going, there was a king named Sigismund von Luxembourg. He started the Order of the Dragon. The Order of the Dragon was to stomp out the Moor. Was to stomp out this, because the Crusades was the Christians against the Moors, Christians against Islam. So when the Christians created the Order of the Dragon, and so the symbol is a dragon with its tail wrapped around its own neck, basically killing itself. So it was in order to literally stomp out the dragon. This is where you get Dracula from. Dracula Dracula, which was Vlad the Impaler, or Vlad Tepes, who was the king of Wallachia. His father was in the dragon order. So Dracula means son of the dragon. And so that's because he was also in the dragon order. Go look at the movie Bram Stoker's Dracula, and watch the very beginning of that movie. The very beginning of that movie is when Dracula, and he's talking about being in the dragon order and all of that stuff. At the very beginning, if you skip the first 4 minutes of that movie, you're gonna miss it. So don't use the bathroom or nothing when that movie come on. Go watch that Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's the one with Keanu Reeves. Go watch that at the very beginning. He talks about the dragon order and all of that type of stuff. So the dragon was the Moor. The evil monster, the dragon that they had to kill was the Moor. Also King George. You go look up depictions of King George in history. King George is always slaying the dragon. It's always a Caucasian lady around, a reptilian that King George is about to stab with his sword. And so there's a Caucasian lady around. That's because the dragon or the serpent represented the Moor, and the Caucasian represented the tribute that the Moor would demand. They always would demand, again, Caucasian women, kids, and food. They would also take men. If the men had any special skills, they would take the men. Otherwise, they would just kill them. Like, so, if you look up something called the Sack of Baltimore, so this is where you get the city of Baltimore. It comes from an ancient place, or not ancient, but in time in history, or a place called Baltimore, in the Sack of Baltimore, where the Moors rolled in. They rolled in the middle of the night to Baltimore. It was like this coastal town. I think it's like Ireland, somewhere in Northern Europe, and they rolled into town in the middle of the night, killed the men, took the women and children, and bounced before daytime. And they roll in the middle of the night. This is where you get midnight marauders from, or midnight Moor raiders. Marauders mean
Moor raiders.
Moor raiders.
Okay.
And
wow.
So they would roll in the middle of the night, smack where the food, where the women at, smack you up, and then we out. And so you would have these things. This is just one of the things that would happen.
That's where they would begin to make up their harems, and most of their harems were European or Caucasian, Albion women.
Right. Well, sometimes though, not even sometimes. A lot of the time, they wouldn't take the women or children. Sometimes they were offered, because they knew that life in the Islamic world was much better, because the technology was much better in the Islamic world. You had running water and lights and and hospitals and and all that stuff. In the Caucasian world, they were living in shacks and not bathing. They didn't believe in bathing.
That's right.
They had animals running through their living room and stuff. They were living with diseased animals. That's where all these diseases was coming from and all that type of stuff. So, they knew that was a better life. So they would offer their children to, when the Moors came through, they were like, "Yo, take my kid. Here you go." And it would be a better life for them. When they were taken into these and taken up by the Sultan, they were put into different military orders called the Mamluks or Janissaries, and so they would be able to rise to a certain level of power, but they couldn't they couldn't become sultans or something, you know, stuff like there was a ceiling to how far they could raise, but it was pretty far though. They could get to be, you know, where they own land and have harems and all that type of stuff. But the Mamluk.
Are we talking about the Albions now?
Yeah, I'm talking about the
under Moorish rulership.
Literally, Christian slave is a term, is another name for white slave. Whenever you hear Christian slaves taken in history by the Muslims, that meant white slave. That's just so they don't say, because they don't want you to know that there were white slaves in history, or that the Moors or any melanated countries had white people in slavery. So they'll say, oh, they'll term it as Christians and, you know, and Muslim. They'll give it these roundabout names. But yeah, they were, you know, they were.
Yeah, I can't even put titles in, and certain things that you put in, they don't they don't want you. You know, I get flagged, but there is. Yeah.
I do,
this particular book I have, and some of you have seen it. I'm sure you have it too. Let me see if I can bring it up. It's called that. Let me see.
White Car. Yeah, that's one of the books I got over there. Absolutely. White Cargo.
I have that on. Yeah. So that particular book right there. I'm not gonna type it in because it'll get flagged. But that book is, you know, it's by
they were white.
John Jordan and Michael Walsh, The Forgotten History of Britain's White Slaves in America.
Mm-hmm. Also, they were white and they were slaves.
Yeah.
That's another book that you want to get. They were white and they were slaves. That talks about when the first slaves in America were Caucasian, not melanated people. So this that's another history that most melanated people think over here, that the first slaves in America were melanated, and they weren't. They were Caucasian, and so that book talks about that thing. But so the Moors would take these slaves up. So the Moors would have these people do most of the harsh stuff that you would see in history were actually done by the non-melanated Moors that they would capture and put into the Mamluk code. Mamluk means pale slave.
Really?
It literally means
something.
It's pale slave. So, and then they would take these Mamluks and these Janissaries and use them for their campaigns. So this is why a lot of Caucasians have a deep-rooted history that they have in their, you know, it's in their cells. They don't even know. But from history, we would kidnap them, or sometimes a lot of times they were given, but we would make them go raid their own people after they became part of the sultans, became a part of the sultan. Like the leader of the sack on Baltimore was a former Christian slave that they turned into a Moor. And they sent him back to raid that town. So, you know, this is you know, the things that the Moors would do. And we had great things that we were doing, but we was also smacking the crap out of people and causing a lot
lot of animosity around. Someone said that's why no wonder why we're so hated. Right. And perhaps that's right. I mean, maybe we are. Maybe it's karma. You know, maybe.
It's absolutely karma. This is where the Phoenix Moors comes in. So the Dragon Moors were, again, the military Moors around there doing these campaigns, smacking people up, getting, you know, snatching up slaves, just, you know, doing crazy stuff. There's a book called Medieval Iberia. That's mostly just the accounts of what happened when the Moors rolled into town through Europe and in the Iberian Peninsula. And man, they used to cut off babies' heads and play like throw them up and catch them on these spears and cut the nobles' heads off and place them on the scaffolding through town so that you would know don't mess with the Moors. They would do some. The Moors was no joke. I mean, that Moor coming through cutting off heads, that was a real thing. And so that was the Dragon Moor. That was so he was equated with, you know, with that brutality, you know, also something that they called in history the brutish Moors.
Brutish Moors. That's why I said I would sleep, and I woke up the other night and I was saying the other morning, I said, oh, he was going, the brutish are coming, the brutish are coming. You said, right. Maybe he was saying brutish and not British when he was supposedly running And
he was saying British. That wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't the Moors that was coming over here at that time. But that was the actual British. But that was some Masonic stuff that was going on. And it was also not Paul Revere that was involved in that. It was more than Paul Revere. That was the Masonic temple. That was.
So they used him like they do everything else. They have a face for the narrative that they're spinning.
Absolutely. So
somebody has to be like a Rosa. They put a Rosa in the bus, but she wasn't the one that was the
right. Exactly.
We got to know this. You know, we have these historical icons that are fictionalized, and we have to smash these sacred cows by telling the truth.
The Dragon Moor, though, you can find if you go look in ancient and modern Britons. One again, the dragon part goes back to the gunpowder that we used to use against them in the Crusades. So ancient and modern Britons, I think it's in book 2 in the back. They talk about how we used to hurl these fireballs at them, and because they didn't know what that stuff was, they would equate these falling fireballs to dragons.
Dragons.
So we would hurl these things at them, and they would call them dragons. So they equated us with dragon. That was one of the reasons they equated us with dragon.
You know, I heard Grand Sheik probably around 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. He was doing a class, maybe 2012, and he showed the book, the yellow book, Ancient and Modern Britons.
Yep.
And I want to say that was a Friday, Monday, or yeah. I was at the Goodwill a few days later, and I'd gone to the bathroom in the Goodwill store, and I came out, and the section that sells books was right there. And all of a sudden I could just see a yellow book on the shelf with other books. I was like, I've seen that color before. And I went on the shelf, took that book off the shelf. It was Ancient and Modern Britain. I got it for 25 cents.
What? Man.
It's right here. It's right on my shelf. I paid 25 cents for it at Goodwill. I mean, the color said, pick me up. It's like I said, I just saw that color. And when I picked it up, it was Ancient and Modern Brits. I paid 25 cents for it.
That person had no idea what they had. Because in here, it talks about an account that one of the generals who came over here to America, he had an account with some of the Aboriginals over here. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. So let's see if I can focus and read this. My eyes are a little bad. But in here it says, man, my eyes are bad, y'all. Right now. Damn. Okay, let me see. In a brief narrative of the encounters between the early colonists of New England and the natives, and the native Indians, I find it stated that these unfortunate gentlemen were intercepted by 700 Moors. So it just said the native Indians, and then in the very next sentence, they called them Moors, 700 Moors. And it literally is making a distinction between the Indians and calling them Moors. They didn't make a distinction. The colonists who got over here, they saw the Indians and said, "Oh, those are Moors," and so they would use the term interchangeably from Indian to Moor. So this is how you understand that the Aboriginals are Moors. It's a universal term that they would use because we were dark. This is what they would call dark people. But that dragon, the Dragon Moor, going back to the Crusades, going back to the Crusades, and so there's a depiction of how many of, like, when the Crusades happened, of how many actual battles the Moors initiated as opposed to the Christians. So there was like something like over 500 and something battles that the Moors during the Crusades that they initiated. The Christians only initiated 15. 15 battles as opposed to over 500. That means we were smacking. we would roll through there and start smacking. So you had, again, these scholars, the philosophers, the teachers who were also Moors and understood and had this higher knowledge. They would see what the what these military Moors were doing, and they would know that this karma would have to come back. You just can't be out here, putting out this energy, because karma only means cause and effect. So whatever energy you put out, that means that's the energy you're going to get back. So understanding this law, and again, once you rule for so long, it can be easy for you to get away from your initial principles. Once you just, there's no checks and balances on you for so long, you can just forget that, I shouldn't be doing all of this, right? Because there's nobody to check you ever. So the Moors had just gotten out of control. We were just really no matter what, we was around smacking people. So the Phoenix Moors, these, like I said, the scholars, the philosophers, the scientists, they started to share the information with these Caucasian societies, so that they would diminish the karma that would come back. We again, a part of the karma was holding the knowledge away from them, because the information is not just meant for us. We're a part of the world. We're children of the earth, and so this information helps to uplift and evolve the earth. So if we're holding it, then that means there's some part of the earth that's not being uplifted and is being held back. So that's karma. And so because of that, these Moors said, all right, we got to start feeding some of these Caucasians. This is when they started to let Plato and Pythagoras and all these people into the mystery schools. They were like, all right, we'll let a couple of you Caucasians come on over. You can go.
And then they took it and ran with it.
Right, they took it back
and said, look, we're the father of this and the philosophy and all that.
Absolutely. But then there was also, the Dragon Moor wasn't just all bad, though. There was also a golden dragon. See, there's a dark, when you go do the history, there's the dark dragon or the black dragon, and then there's a golden dragon. The golden dragon, you go in Asia, that's the golden dragon. He was revered as God, and he brought enlightenment and health and all the rest of that. He wasn't an evil figure. That's because the golden dragon represented, anytime you see anything with gold or light, it represents enlightenment. Mm-hmm. So the golden dragon was a military figure who was aggressive, he was militarily aggressive, but they understood diplomacy as well. So a good depiction of that would be Saladin. Go back and look up the ancient. There's a movie called Kingdom of Heaven. If you want to look up Saladin. It's all about Saladin. Saladin is the Moor who took back Jerusalem after the Christians took Jerusalem. He came and he took it back. But as opposed to what the Christians did, the Christians killed everybody when they took Jerusalem. They killed even Christians. They killed everybody because it was mostly killers. The Pope Urban went to the jails and he said, "Yo, if y'all go back, if you go back and take Jerusalem back for God, even though you did bad, you can, if you die, you'll be let into heaven." So all the criminals and rapists and all them, they were like, "Yeah, we'll go on a crusade for God." So when they went to Jerusalem and they rode through town, they took Jerusalem, they killed everybody, Moors, Christians, Jews, everybody. When Saladin came back, being a person of knowledge, enlightenment, he was like, "Look, I could kill all of y'all right now. Like, I got enough men to just wipe y'all out right now. But why would we want to do that?" He's like, if y'all leave quietly, just give up Jerusalem. Y'all can leave. We'll feed y'all. We'll clothe you. We just need you to leave. Y'all just need to bounce. And so after a minute, they thought about it and they were like, "You know what? Yeah, we don't got a chance." So Saladin, he let them all go, stayed alive. They were still able, they wanted to convert to Islam and stay. They could. If they wanted to leave, they could. But this was the golden dragon, the dragon of enlightenment. He only used as much force as he had to use. Matter of fact, when he was fighting with one of the kings of England, the king got sick and he sent him medicine so that he could continue. He's like, "Yo, I know you sick. I know you're battling right now, homie, but here, take some of this medicine." He packed it in.
Continue to fight.
Yes, continue to fight. Yo, he was on some stuff like that. Packed it in snow so that it would stay cool and fresh. Packed it in snow, send it to him in snow, and say, "Yo, take this medicine, homie, so you can get better, so we can continue fighting."
Let me ask you a question. There's a comment in the chat that someone went to your site and that the class class status There was a class in 2019 on the sovereign citizen movement. And the question is, why is this sovereign citizen used? It's an oxymoron and COINTELPRO term. I don't know about the class. Were you just exposing it, or were you saying that we are sovereign citizens, or were you exposing it?
No, I was in that class. It shows how they're focusing on the sovereign citizen movement.
You were not calling Moors sovereign citizens. I didn't think so. But sometimes when people put stuff in, you see a title doesn't tell you. It looks, you said the movement. You didn't say it was Moors, but I just wanted to clear that up because
there's a sovereign citizen movement
but it's not us.
Yeah, no, the Moors get caught up in it. Some Moors are caught up in it. Some Moors are caught up in that.
So you weren't teaching Moors that they were sovereign citizens. In other words, that's what I wanted to say in that class.
No. Well, you are sovereign. You, as an Aboriginal, you are sovereign, but you're not a sovereign. You're not a sovereign citizen. You're
citizen. Okay.
Free inhabitant, or if you do use the term citizen. So this is dealing with the Constitution. You have to understand there's different types of citizens within the Constitution. So the preamble is strictly written with the Moors, they're the Aboriginals in mind. But see, that would take a minute to go into to break down. But the preamble is written with the Moors in mind. So that, it's let me how to explain it. It's in the preamble, they're basically saying how they got the permission to be here from, so they don't say who it's from, but they say that they're only here by the permission of someone else. And that's in the preamble. Who gave them the permission to be here? That would be you. That would be you, the Aboriginals. But if you don't know how to read, everything is written in code back then, especially in the 1700s. They used to write in something called cipher. Go look that up. And every person in politics back in the day had their own type of cipher. They would write in their own code, and then some would use a universal cipher. So most of the stuff that you see written in those ancient times were written with a surface meaning and then a hidden meaning. So the preamble has the Aboriginals in mind when they're writing it. They're basically stating that they got the right to be here from the Aboriginals. But if you don't know how to read it, you won't understand it. So calling yourself a sovereign citizen, but it depends on who you're talking about. Not a sovereign citizen of America. If you're an Aboriginal, if you're of an Aboriginal of a nation, of an Aboriginal nation, or if you're a citizen of an Aboriginal nation, that puts you on a completely different ground. But in that video, I'm just explaining the Caucasian sovereign citizen movement and how the police are focusing on that. And if you call yourself sovereign citizen, they're going to basically smack you up. So you don't want to call yourself that. You want to be called, if you're going to do it, a self-governing, you call yourself self-governing, but you're not a sovereign citizen.
Thank you for clearing that up. And I know we only have a few minutes left, but I didn't. You also deal with astrology and cardology.
Mm-hmm.
We had a sister on the other day that was Mother Kai, who was talking about. She doesn't call herself a numerologist, but she's awesome. But when I saw the sister that did the guap coin. Oh gosh,
Tavonia?
No, she's Aquarius Maximus. Maximus.
Yeah, her real name is Tavonia.
Oh, I didn't know that. I want to get her on the show. So if you know her real name, tell her she needs to come on the show. I need to get her on the show. Anyway, yeah, she was talking about that. So how do you use cardology? I mean, in this last 45 minutes or so, can you give us based on what's going on, what year is this? And what can we look to? What can we as Moors expect, or should we be focusing on in this year dealing with cardology?
Well, cardology is mostly a personal thing, because everyone who has a birthday, you're born under a certain card in the deck. So, excuse me. The cards that you see, the spade, the spade, the club, the heart, and the diamond, those aren't new inventions. Those come back from Kemet. Those are on the pyramid. Those symbols are on the pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
Kemet, especially the spade. Spade is on the pyramid. So that science goes all the way back, and it deals with uh, it deals with astrology, but it matches it's a system of how to be able to maneuver and understand what certain energies mean to you on specific times and specific days. So everyone is born under a certain card. So go get, if you want to know what your card is, you should get the book, The Cards of Destiny by Robert Kemp, or the actual older one beyond that is
Sacred Cards of Your Destiny, exploring. Oh, there's love cards. Oh, look, I'm looking on my shelf. Exploring
all of those come from a book that where is it? It's right here. Oh man, I thought it was down there. It's called a book called Sacred Symbols of the Ancients. I got a million books in here. So I can't find it. It's called Sacred Symbols of the Ancients. And so Robert Kemp, he got it from this lady. I think it's like something Meredith.
Yeah, it's Robert Kemp.
Yeah, right? Robert Kemp.
Yeah, because I've got like 3 of his books on the shelf I'm looking at. Yeah.
Okay. So he got his book, though. He got his science from the first book was called Sacred Symbols of the Ancients. And it's a book with a pyramid on the front and an eye in the middle of, not a pyramid, a spade. There's a spade in the front of the book, and there's an eye in the middle of the spade. And so how I got started on it was I went to this alternative bookstore out here. Me and the friend that I told you, I met at the gym. We were born on the same day.
Yes.
He took me to see Zoe. So we were born on the same day. He took me to this bookstore, and we were moving around through the bookstore, and I saw the card. I saw the spade. And so I have you can see I have the spade tattoo on my arm, and I had it for a while, and it was a black fist with a spade before I got it changed. And so I thought the book was going to tell me, the symbolism of, what the spade was. So I bought the book. And when I bought the book, I flipped it open. Well, before I bought the book, I flipped it open, and it had birthdays. And so I'm looking down the thing, and my birthday was one of the spades, was the ace of spades. But I'd had this spade on my arm for 4 years before I'd even known that. And so it tripped me out. I was like, what? Like, I'm an ace.
My card is like 6 of hearts or something like that. It's a 6 of hearts or diamond. I can't remember. But it's one of those, it was a red 6 and it was either hearts or diamonds. But but people can look that up, because it's a little bit different than numerology.
No.
In that,
it uses numerology.
But it uses the 52 card deck to right, as opposed to, like, say, tarot, however you want to pronounce it, who has the hangman and this one and all that, the
right.
Lovers and the da-da-da. It's the actual cards.
This system is actually before the tarot.
Right.
Yeah, this system came before the tarot cards, and it's based on, like you said, 52 decks based on 52 weeks of the 52 weeks of the year. Then it breaks down. So you go every year. So every year you go under a certain card. 52 days you go under a certain card, and then every day you visit a card. So these are basically energies. These cards are just the astrological energies that you have available to you at the time. And so if you know what you're working with, you can use these energies, to your advantage. But also, these energies are working whether you know them or not. So a lot of times when you're experiencing difficulty within your life and this and that, you may have these opposing energies that may be there, and you have no idea that while you're running into this wall, you be like, God, dog, what the? You may seem like
I was talking to Mother Kai, my guest from Tuesday, and we were talking, and so I had an injury on the 7th of June 2017. I gave her the date, and I told her, and so when she looked at the card, it was a 5. It was a 5. When she looked at the date, whatever the date, it was a 5 date. And it was dealing with traveling, and also I'm a number 8, so security, right? So traveling, I was traveling across the parking lot and I stepped on an unsecured manhole cover and snapped both my quad tendons. But the day yes, and I ended up, I didn't come back home until July 2nd. That was June 7th because I had to have surgery on both legs to reattach the quad tendons. But I stepped on the manhole cover went like that as I was walking to my car, and it went, it snapped both quad tendons. Not one, but two. But the day, the number, the 5 and the 8 were, I'm the 8, and it was a 5-day. So security, travel, and security. So here I was traveling, and I stepped on an unsecure manhole cover. And so she said, but had you known that, you would have known that maybe traveling, there was an issue with traveling that day. But I didn't know.
Right. And this is why these are the roadmaps that we left ourselves in order to be able to maneuver through this, through this physical experience, at a certain ease. We don't just come here and then learn stuff and then forget it. We learn stuff and then we leave it for the next generation so we can advance and evolve. You're not supposed to keep going over the same shit over and over and over and over again. You take what the last generation did and you build upon that, and so you get better. You do more. This is why we were called Moor. Even in French, the word what they called Moors was the term, you spelled it M-O-R-E.
Okay.
M-O-R-E was the word Moor, was the word for actual us in French. So
wow.
More, yes. So come on, y'all. This is what we were here for.
Yeah. So there's just so much knowledge and so much. You have so many areas of interest and expertise. I mean, we could have probably spent this 2 hours on any of those subject matters that you are adept in. But I hope that one, I don't know how often you do your lives, but I always enjoy. My 10-year-old grandson was watching you the other day. And you know your expressions and some of the things you say, and he kind of looked at me. I said, ignore the GD word and just listen to it. I was like, just listen. So
look, when I'm doing the live stream,
so shout out to Aiden for watching you.
Shout out to Aiden.
Yeah. And he's an awesome basketball player, an awesome football player. And what I was saying, that I'm seriously championship winning. And I had to have this conversation with him. I said to him, you know what? The thing called baseball, basketball, or just America's favorite pastimes, I said, it's changing. I'm saying, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Because, maybe you wanted to be this great basketball player, this great football, because he's a championship player, in the youth league. And I mean, won national championships. And I said, it's not going to be the same. I said, they used to have these sports and all these. I said, because that's like the hangover from, I guess it's a step up from Coliseums when they were fighting each other to the death. I said, but it was all to get the energy and also to distract the people with what was really going on. I said, so perhaps that won't be your profession that, so he says, well, he said, I want to be a doctor. I said, well, then be a holistic doctor. I said, because of the other ones, I said, they're practicing and they're killing us. So, but it was funny, but we were looking at you and talking.
I said, or if he does go that route, just make sure he understands to use that platform in order to elevate, what's real. So when we say
I don't see it having the same significance with the people as it did. You talked about the reset on December 21st, 2020, and I think things have changed. I think the C pandemic, whatever, it changed a lot of things. And I don't think people are as excited about watching some of these things. I mean, you got
you're right. You're absolutely right.
So I'm saying, does it have a future? You know what I mean? As something,
people, the masses are still, we're dealing in the consciousness world, but the masses are still highly, are highly, blind and susceptible to distraction. So like even now, when football was going on, football ain't got nobody in the stands right now, but people still watching the playoffs, playoff football. So no matter what, as long as they can make money off of that type of stuff, they're still going to promote it, and it's still going to be a distraction. I'm saying if that's what he wants to do, just make sure he understands the road and avenue that he's getting into and what he can use it for. Like,
Right.
you're going to get this level of prestige, but this level of prestige requires this much level of work on your, or give back. You know what I'm saying?
I just think we should have our children, our young people focusing. Maybe now's the time. The ones that can't, where their parents are awakening or awoke, because what if they think I'm not woke, I'm awakening. I am awakening. I am reawakening. It's a continuous process, but we've got to get the young people, and we've got to grab them before they are indoctrinated the way we were, our parents were, and our grandparents were. We've got to get them get to the knowledge that you talked about tonight, the things that we talked about. Like, I tried to sit him down because I wasn't sure what you were going to talk about, but I wanted him to hear something, we got to have that kind of training. And it may be that we'll have to do these things like on Patreon or find our own platforms, because they don't want them to have this kind of knowledge. Because when he began to tell me what he was learning in school, it was something contrary to the truth. I said, you need to come over and talk to your mom. So let me tell you the truth, because they're lying to you. Straight up lying. That ain't the truth. That's not true. But we have to develop that for our children, so that our children will be able to even protect us, because they won't protect us if we let them become indoctrinated by them.
They won't know how to protect us.
No. They'll let them. They'll let them do stuff. My son called me today. He said, "Mom, Hank Aaron transitioned today."
Right.
He said, 2 weeks after he took the
the vaccine.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Okay. That's it. He said on the news, they were like, the last CNN, last time we saw him was 2 weeks ago, and he was getting that vaccine. Yeah. So I'm just not saying, but yeah. So he was getting that. And then 2 weeks later, wasn't it a doctor that got it? And 2 weeks later, he was gone. So I'm just saying, we've got to educate our young people and know that there's something going on, and there are folks that, even though it's a small, I always say to you all, if you have not seen The Dark Crystal, please go look at Netflix, The Dark Crystal. I know it's a Muppet show, but it's a reflection of the Skeksis and the Gelfins. We are the Gelfins, they are the Skeksis. It is more of us than is them. We might look different. Some of us might be underground. Some of us may be in trees. Some of us be, whatever we're doing. But we are the Gelfins, and we have to unify, because the Skeksis, even though they seem like they got this great big booming power, if you pull the curtain back, it's just a couple of old fat ugly ogres.
Right. That was the whole Wizard of Oz thing. That was the Wizard of Oz. If you pull the curtain back on the Wizard of Oz, he's nothing but some dude up there working some. He wasn't no big wizard. He was some regular ass dude sitting back there pulling strings and this and that. That let you know.
Absolutely.
This is an illusion. And once
it is an illusion.
Life, you will see that.
And I've learned, people ask me, did I look at the thing on the 20th? Did I look at this? Nope. Didn't. Because that's my in the world, but not of it stance. I don't look at this stuff.
The 20th. Oh, the inauguration?
Yeah, that. I don't even give it the energy of saying what it was, but I didn't do it. I didn't even want to be, I wasn't a party to it. So if I'm not party to it, and now if somebody else is looking at stuff and I hear stuff, of course I can't stop to hear, but I'm hearing all this stuff, people that they trying to say or need to be, they want to put people in reprogramming, programming and stuff if they voted for Trump and do all this stuff. It's like this foolishness. I'm going to be in it, but not of it. I'm not in this world.
But to see that type of stuff, the symbolism is what's important on those days, because I'm sure you got to peep see what the energy they putting out. And they had two people there, well, three people, but name Garth Brooks doesn't matter. J-Lo, who's been inducted, she got inducted by Puffy a long time ago. Why is J-Lo there singing the national anthem? She can't sing, first off. And why she there singing the national anthem for the president? That was then the other person that was singing was there. That was Lady Gaga.
Born This Way. Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, she has this song called Born This Way. And I'm thinking, what way? What way were you born?
Well, she's definitely inducted. You know, Jimmy Iovine, Interscope Records, who brought Death Row, and who brought, you know, who's with Dr. Dre and all them. He's a major figure who's in all that. He brought her in, basically made her. But Gaga is an Anunnaki. The actual character figure Gaga is an ancient Anunnaki god. You go back and look at what Gaga is. So how did she know to take the name Gaga? She didn't take that name. I promise you, she didn't give herself that name. Somebody gave her that name and made her this symbol, this false god of the actual god, the Sumerian god that was back in the day of Gaga. Gaga, also planetarily, Gaga was equated with Pluto, which used to be considered a moon of Saturn. So Saturn worship was, you didn't even get into the Saturn stuff, but the Saturn worship is real. And, you know, as making you go along with it, you know, they have to get melanated people to power their stuff. You have to understand that they don't get melanated people to go along with this stuff. It doesn't have as much power because you transmute frequency and vibration better than anything on the planet. So they have to get you involved in their stuff. So, getting us all on this, the inauguration and bringing us into all of this stuff, they have to get us to power all of their Saturn worship. They have to do it, even though, everyone's mental power, is strong. But melanated people, if they get us to power their stuff, they get us on the Saturn worship, which is why they got you worshiping LeBron, which is a Capricorn ruled by Saturn. I mean, it's all, which is Michael Jordan. Michael means he who, L is another name for Saturn. So it means he who is like Saturn. So it's all Saturn worship. The bull is Moloch, which goes back to Saturn. Even Martin Luther King, the killing of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, they're both of those names go back to Saturn. King goes back to Melech, which is Moloch, which is Saturn. Also, Malcolm is Melech, which is King. It's also Moloch. So literally, it's the Saturn worship is real, and the Saturn sacrifice is real. So unless you know that, you're just going to be going right along with all of that stuff. And they had it on display at the thing.
Listen, it's about that time, and I want to say thank you for coming on this special Friday edition of Office Hours with Dr. G and dropping all of this knowledge and wisdom and just and your humor with us. I hope that those of you who have not, if you've not been over to Kevin's channel, that you'll go over to Real Nagas on YouTube and subscribe and like. And if you haven't subscribed and liked my channel, please do so. Here on Tuesdays, and we have various speakers on guests on Friday. But Office Hours with Dr. G is usually a Tuesday show. But since it's the platform that came through me, I can do what I want to do. So if I want to do it Friday, I do it Friday if I want to. So no, I'm not, but I can, and I did, and this was great. I do what I want to do. That's right, because they say get them thumbs up, and look, we just real here. Like in the very beginning, the doggone countdown thing that normally plays wouldn't play. It showed us, then I clicked back, then it wouldn't play. So it's like, okay, can I get I'm like the guy that's like, can I get a show that doesn't have a snag in the front of it? Right. But it's always power went off. But it's been a great show. It's been a great show.
It doesn't even seem like it's been that long, actually.
You said I didn't realize this was going to be 3 hours. It's 3 hours and 3 minutes, and we're still going to bring you back. And please come back. Let's stay in touch. And
we're doing that.
Yes. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you guys. Every last one of you. Can't call your names, but you know who you are. I love you. And I thank you even for the new folks. Listen, share this video. let others see and hear what was talked about. And hey, get in touch with Brother Kevin. I think I'm going to sign up for the status class because I want to know. I want to know what I'm going to be doing.
The police stop law package or the melanin book, you just go to realnagas.com. If you ordered the melanin book, this is 2 books actually. This is just the 1 or 2 books. I'll give you the police stop law package for free because I want you guys to have this. This is vegetables in the dinner. The melanin book is dessert. So I'll give you if you buy the dessert, I'll give you the vegetables. All right.
Okay.
That's how that goes.
So
free if you order the hard copy melanin book.
So that is actually at let me make sure I can put that up. So they can order the book at
Real
okay, let me get this. Order police stop. Order melanin. What is it? Melanin book.
Mm-hmm.
Melanin.
Great book of melanin research is what it's called. But you
I don't even think I know how to spell melanin.
Yeah.
Book of melanin and then research.
A-N-I-N.
Mm-hmm.
N-I-N.
That's it.
Yeah, I put it up there for you. There you
go. I see that. I got that. I'm just putting the email. realnagas.com, right?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. There we go. And there we go. Or there we go. So we got it up there in order to you will get, if you order the book of melanin research, you will actually get the police stop package complimentary. It will come along with it. So we'll leave that up. And thank you again. Let me see your closing comments.
Make sure you get your tuning forks, get your organ.
Yeah, because a lot of times I'll play the I don't know where it is, but I'll play this or I'll play the singing bowl for him. But I don't even know what my singing bowl is. But listen, I got singing bowls and all kinds of stuff like this. But these things, and yes, somebody said, you are the tuning fork. Yeah, you are. But this helps. This helps to get your fork in tune.
Right. A guitar plays its tune on its own too, but you still have to tune it. Piano plays a tune on its own, but you have to tune it.
I have a little bit of. I even have. I can't play it, but I have one. I have a kalimba.
Look at you.
I'm not urban. I'll learn how to play it. I got a kalimba. Kalimba.
You got all the stuff over there.
I got everything.
You got all the stuff over there.
It's like Dr. G, you got all the stuff. Yes, I do. Yeah,
your house is like a little spiritual playground.
Got books, got gadgets.
That's right. We feel right at home. If I'm like, man.
I have a poem in my book that says, all of my indulgences I wanted, I got. Am I happy? No, I'm not. And it's called clutter.
That's right.
It's called clutter.
All right. The first tuning fork, if you want that you guys want to get, the base one is own. This is the frequency, the universal tone is own. Right. So this will tune you, so get you back to the base frequency in the universe. And then
I'm going to figure out a contest so I can give away one of my 4 own.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You got 4 of them. Yeah,
I got 3 or 4. I'm gonna have to have a contest and give away the tuna fork. Not this one, the other one. Anyway, I'll do that. I'll come up with something. All right. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Look, tell somebody about office hours and House of Reawakening Minds.
I do. I told them I went on today and shouted you out and said to subscribe and watch
it. I appreciate you. And thank you so much. Thank you, one and all. And we'll be back on Tuesday. I'm going to have a very interesting, every now and then you have to do one of these shows where you have to clean up something that might be a misconception. So I'm going to have one of those kinds of shows on Tuesday. So you're going to want to tune in. I'm going to have a couple of naturopaths on and there's a little bit of controversy.
Yeah, I've been a healthcare professional for 20-something years.
Well, so we're gonna clear this up because we need to clear some stuff up. So, but I'm happy that the two brothers are going to come on, and we're going to have some good information after we clear up the controversy.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much. Are you my next guest? I don't know. Tell somebody about Office Hours with Dr. G. Would love to have you as my next guest. Until next time, this is Dr. G. See you at your next appointment.
Peace.
Dr. G. Really? Who's she? Yeah, that's me. 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 Dr. G. Really? Who's she?